Chair, you have a live mic.
I don't know.
Good morning. Welcome to the County Commission meeting of July 8. Before we get started, I want to just make a couple of comments. We have this wonderful tradition of having someone in active military or a veteran come to our meetings to get us started with the Pledge of Allegiance. We always have someone from a church or a synagogue help us get started with a prayer. But this morning we have a really special family here. And so I just wanted to say just a quick word. We have, first of all, we have Pastor David Wildman from the Grove Church, the States. But for the Pledge of Allegiance, we have Jeff Broder, Army veteran, served in Korea at the DMZ, and is president of the Korean War Veterans Association. Then we have his son, Vincent Broder, Army veteran, who was seriously wounded. And then we have his mother, Mara Broder, Navy veteran. And so we have a family of veterans here with us this morning, and really give us a perfect example of the sacrifice of the men and women who joined the military forces to protect this nation. And so I'm just really pleased to have you here with us this morning. So we'll start off with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, good morning. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together today for this Collier County Commissioner meeting. We're grateful for the chance to be a part and serve this community and for the many blessings that you've poured out on this county. I lift up the leaders in this room, the commissioners, the staff, and everyone working behind the scenes. Give them clear minds, steady hearts, and wisdom for the decisions that they face. Help them work together with respect and purpose, keeping the good of the people in mind. Your word in 1 Timothy 2:2 tells us to pray for those in authority so that we may live peaceful and quiet lives marked by godliness and dignity. And that's our prayer today, for peace in our communities, for wisdom and leadership, and for a spirit of unity across Collier County. We also pray for the people who live and work here, our families, first responders, small business owners, and so many others who make this county what it is. Watch over them, encourage them, and meet their needs today. And we also pray a special blessing over our armed forces and the veterans, especially those in this room this morning. Grant them the health and the provision that they need in every area of their life. And as this meeting begins, may everything said and done be guided by integrity, humility, and a heart to serve. And we pray all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Bless America.
Yes, sir.
Amen, amen, amen.
Hey, great seeing you, my brother. Hey, you still out there riding? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna take a few photos, and while we're doing that, I want to thank Lois Boland. Every meeting, she makes arrangements to have veterans here at our meetings. Before we start photos, we'll stand up here for that. But I just want to thank you for your efforts, because it's quite a task every 2 weeks, and you do a great job. So thank you for that.
You stay right there. They're going to come in behind you.
And can we get our photographer to take one, then just we'll send you. We'll make sure you get. We'll make sure you get. Yeah. We'll make sure you get this photo as well. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I want to say it's an honor to be here. Nice to see a lot of people we know here. Thank Lois, good friend of ours. And little history of us, we've been down here since 2010. We were actually sent here by the Department of Defense to the Tampa Polytrauma Center. And we lived in Venice for about 2 years, and it was only 40 minutes to the hospital. And I don't think a lot of people realize a lot of America's worst, very badly wounded soldiers were sent to Florida, the Tampa Polytrauma Center. And they're all centered around that area. And I mean very bad brain injuries, double, triple, quadruple amputees are up in that area. And when we got here, the Polytrauma Center really wasn't that very nice. And it was overfull. It was the height of the war. And, you know, we had fought for private care and got Vincent private care in Boston, and they actually got him out of a coma up there after 1 year. He's had 49 operations. And then they shipped us down here, and the Polytrauma Center today at Tampa is by far the best in America. By far. They just put up a brand new wing, and it's state of the art. And his doctor up there, Dr. Scott, that runs the Polytrauma Center, actually talks to his other doctor in Washington at Bethesda. And they're putting the first TBI ward in America right there in Tampa at the VA Polytrauma Center. That's a big deal. So, you know what, we're happy to be here. Vincent was with the 82nd Airborne at the surge, and they went in to clear a building, and they blew that building up. And his team leader, Sergeant Woodcock, was 4 feet to his left, and he basically disintegrated. And Vincent had catastrophic injuries. They actually removed his complete cranium, several blood clots from the right side of his brain, frontal lobe on the left side, arm blown off and reattached, and it's been a journey for us. And we ended up down here. And you know what? This is a great community. There's a lot of good people in this community. They do a lot of support for veterans. And we do a Vinnie's Wounded Vet Run. And we were just able to give out $27,000 to several groups that have supported Vincent. And we'll continue to do that. We're giving back to the community. So my wife here served in the Navy 6.5 years in Europe. Vincent, of course, Iraq, and I served in the DMZ in Korea. And somehow was elected as national president. Unfortunately, a lot of those guys I knew. Those guys were real heroes. I mean, I knew them all the Medal of Honor recipients. They were the old breed. And, you know, it's really sad to see those guys passing. But they entrusted me to carry on their legacy. And that's what I'm doing. So I do run. I was national president, and now I'm the president of Southwest Florida. And I do a lot of the stuff behind the scenes nationally. Unfortunately, politics is involved in everything, even up in Washington, with various veterans group. And to be honest with you, when I go up there and come back, I can't wait to come back home down here, to be honest with you. So thank you, and appreciate everything the county has done for our veterans, and Lois and everybody here for supporting our veterans. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Ms. Patterson?
Commissioners' agenda changes for July 8th, 2025. First, as move item K5 to 11H. This item was...
For folks that are listening to this, you really have to pay attention because this is going to be really confusing. And actually, I think almost comical when we get to some of the time certains. Thank you, sir. Sorry to interrupt, but it just...
All right.
All right.
First up, we're going to move item 16K5 to 11H. This item was continued from the June 24th, 2025 BCC meeting. This is a recommendation to provide direction to staff to advertise an ordinance to amend the Collier County Parking, Storage, and Use of Vehicles Control Ordinance codified in the Code of Laws and Ordinances to provide limitations on the parking and/or storage of commercial motor vehicles and commercial equipment in residential areas, including the Estates zoning district. This is being moved at Commissioner McDaniel's request. Next is add-on item 16B9. This is a recommendation to approve and authorize an after-the-fact payment in the amount of $117,236.48 to Quality Enterprises USA, Inc. for the Immokalee Area Improvements Tiger Grant Project under agreement number 20-7811 for additional driveway installations. This is being added at staff's request and was provided to each board member as a one-way communication and has been added to the agenda. One agenda note on item 10A, the title should read imposing the 6th cent, not 6% of the tourist development tax. And now for the highlight of the agenda, or time certain items for this agenda. First, we're going to hear item 6A at 9:15. This is a signature petition submitted by Brandon Reef and Janet Miller regarding Willoughby Acres Park. Item 11A to be heard at 9:30 a.m., a resolution adopting the proposed maximum millage rate for FY 25-26. Item 11B to be heard at 10 a.m., which is the tourism impact study for the sports complex expansion. Item 10A to be heard immediately following item 11B, directing the county attorney to advertise an ordinance for the purpose of levying and imposing the 6th cent of the tourist development tax, subject to voter approval in the November 2026 general election. Item 11C to be heard immediately following item 10A, which is the tourism impact study for the Sun and Fun Lagoon. Item 11D to be heard at 11 a.m., a recommendation to proceed with land acquisition on Bay and Danford Street to address future boat parking needs and local community challenges. And finally, item 9A and 9B to be heard no sooner than 1 p.m. This is amending the NC squared mixed-use overlay and planned unit development to change the affordable housing requirements. We will have court reporter breaks scheduled for 10:30 and again at 2:50. With that, County Attorney.
Nothing, County Manager. Thank you.
All right.
Chair.
Commissioner Colwell, do you have any changes to the agenda?
No changes, and I have no ex partes for the consent agenda items.
Commissioner Hall?
Morning, Mr. Chairman. I have no changes and no ex parte.
Commissioner McDaniel?
I as well. No changes and no ex parte.
Commissioner LaCastro?
No changes, no ex parte.
I have no changes and no ex parte as well.
Very good. If we could get a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, that passes unanimously.
Commissioners, that brings us to item 2, agenda and minutes. If you want to take these two together, we have item 2A, which is the June 10th, 2025 BCC minutes, and the June 19th, 2025 BCC budget workshop meeting minutes.
Move to approve both minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that passes unanimously.
Very good. We're about 2 minutes early, but I can go ahead and read in the title for our 9:15 time certain.
Yes, please.
Okay. Item 6A, public petitions. This is a signature petition submitted by Brandon Reef and Janet Miller requesting to rename Willoughby Acres Park to the Clayton Miller Memorial Park at Willoughby Acres. Before we invite the speakers up, we did have correspondence with the petitioner regarding the renaming. The Board of County Commissioners does have a specific renaming policy, and so we have had conversations with the petitioner about possibility of creating the Clayton Miller Memorial at Willoughby Acres Park, which would allow us to retain the name on the park, but also provide for a safe memorial space for Clayton Miller. And so with that, I invite the petitioner to come up, and you'll have time to speak.
Good morning, and sorry for your loss. And
Good morning. I'm Brandon Reif. This is Janet Miller. Thanks for hearing us today. I'm going to read from this, so hopefully that's okay. The North Naples community is still mourning the tragic loss of Janet's 14-year-old son, Clayton Miller, who passed away in a devastating e-bike accident in the North Naples neighborhood of Willoughby Acres on March 15, 2025. Clayton was a great student, amazing athlete, funny, sweet, caring friend, and a wonderful son who everyone loved, everyone who met him loved. In light of the recent tragedy, we propose changing the name of Willoughby Acres Park to the Clayton Miller Memorial Park at Willoughby Acres. We have over 1,300 signatures of Naples residents who supported this proposal and hoped for the park's name change. However, it did not meet the criteria the county requires to make the name change. It has been suggested by the county manager we may be able to erect a Clayton Miller Memorial at Willoughby Acres Park. Although this was not our initial hope, a memorial for Clayton at the Willoughby Acres Park is a great second option. The memorial will serve as an extremely meaningful tribute to Clayton's memory and provide a lasting reminder to the impact he had on our community. It would also honor his family, loved ones, and friends while reinforcing the importance of safety on our streets and the community support. I'd like to thank John Mullins for his help walking us through this whole process. It's been a lot, and we appreciate your time and consideration for this.
Any comments from the commission? Commissioner Hall.
Thanks for coming up. It takes a lot of guts to bring that up, and I think a memorial is an amazing idea. Not only to bring and keep awareness of what a great student he was, what a leader he was, and I think a memorial in that park is highly appropriate, and I'll support that fully.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other registered speakers? All right. Well, then let's entertain a motion to that effect. Commissioner Hall?
I'll move it.
I'll second it.
I'll third it. All right, we have a motion, second and a third. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you for being here. And
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Commissioners, our next time certain is at 9:30. I would suggest we could take the military museum item in between. That's in when we have folks here representing that. This is the lease. That's item 11E. This is a recommendation to enter into a non-exclusive facility use license agreement between the county and America's Military and First Responder Museum, Inc. to display military artifacts and other military memorabilia at the Collier County Museum at the Government Center and adopt a resolution approving the use pursuant to Section 125.38 Florida statutes. Mr. John Dunnick, your Executive Director of Facilities and Redevelopment, is here to present.
all right, let me just interrupt for a second. Do we have any public petitions? Any public comments?
We do. We have 6 registered public
You
comments.
want to go ahead and take those?
Sure, of course.
All right. Well, this item your item will be real quick. Let's take the public comment right after right after you finish your item, Mr. Dunnick. Let's go ahead and finish the museum. I think that'll be a quick one, and then we'll get into the public petitions.
Sure.
Public comments.
Good morning. Following the board's direction to work collaboratively with the America's Military and First Responder Museum, we've worked out a use agreement for approximately 2,000 square feet at the museum location. You'll see it's a 5-year lease. There's termination for convenience. It's consistent with the county's museum operations, which is something that was kind of important to us. And the fact of the hours. Now they may have their hours a little bit less than our operations, but it works consistently. $10 a year lease, no utility costs. The only outstanding issue is we have a requirement for workers' comp. They don't believe workers' comp is eligible since they're not workers and paid employees, and so we're working through their insurer. So I'd ask a little bit of latitude from the county commission to work out the insurance requirements as part of the signing of this lease.
I'm sure we'll have some registered speakers.
I have one, Dave Hines.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Dave Hines. I'm the president of the America's Military and First Responders Museum. And basically, I wanted to say I thank Chris Hall for pushing this item through the agenda. It's been turbulent times since last March when we started looking for a space. Unfortunately, we don't have the manpower to operate the airport museum and also this museum. But we will suffice, and we'll keep on plugging away in hopes of a bigger building in the near future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hall, do you have a motion?
I move to approve it.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Seeing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. 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 All opposed, pass unanimously. Let's move on to the public petition, or public comments.
Sure, public comment. I'm going to remind the speakers of a couple of things. I'm going to call multiple names. If you'll queue up at both podiums, you'll get a 30-second warning when you have 30 seconds left of your 3 minutes. Our first public speaker is Dwayne Thomas, followed by Jan Rich.
Begin. Good morning. My name is Dwayne Thomas. I'm a marine contractor, general contractor, serving South Collier County, Marco Island, Port Royal area. And the reason I'm here today is the city of Marco Island has provided us graciously with allowing us to use the approximately 200 vacant lots that we have on the island to use to have products delivered for our jobs. But my business alone, I pull approximately 350 building permits a year. And each one of them need a staging lot where I need seawall material delivered, pilings delivered, and coming in and out. So out of that 200 lots that are available on Marco Island, I can only use once a year, and the homeowners are becoming reluctantly allowing us to use them. I've asked the city manager multiple times to use the area by the Jolly Bridge to have product delivered and product picked up, in conjunction with the area of possibly using the boat loading ramp on the Caxambus Park area and the south end of the island for the same thing. This is just for pickup and delivery. Again, Marco Island, they've helped as much as they can. I've been to City Council and talked to Mr. Palumbo at City Council, and they really don't have any commercial areas for us to do anything with. There's no C5 lots available to purchase for this type of industry. And really the only place to go is either the boat loading ramps or the base of the Jolly Bridge, which we've used in the past for multiple staging, but for whatever reason we're getting denied now by the county manager to use that area. Some of my other colleagues are here today are going to speak on the same thing. There's a couple of them that couldn't make it here today, but they did write letters to City Council, Mr. Sanders, and that would be DSI Construction and also Imperial Marine Construction. So basically, we're just here looking for help, hoping you can help a staging problem. There's approximately 80 miles of seawalls that need to get replaced on Marco Island in the next 5 years. The island was designed for the seawalls for a life expectancy of 35 years. Most of them are 50 and 55 years old now, and they're falling down faster than we can put them up. Again, I seek your help. Thank you very much.
Your next speaker is Jan Rich, will be followed by Patty Tulip.
Good morning, Commissioners, and thank you for your time. My name is Jan Rich. I am president and co-founder of For the Love of Cats. I'm here today in response to your June meeting when Commissioner Saunders said that independent rescue organizations such as ours were much more experienced and better equipped to handle community cat problems than the county. After hearing the Commissioner's encouragement to come up with a solution, we developed a proposal that we presented in a meeting to County Manager Amy Patterson, DAS Director Meredith McLean, and Growth Manager Department Head Jamie French. A copy of the proposal was also given to Commissioner Saunders. For the Love of Cats has more than 20 years of rescue experience with trap, neuter, return, TNR, and supports the county community cat ordinance. Our proposal has a solution to the county's stray cat overpopulation. The solution is a partnership between For the Love of Cats and the county that provides our organization with the additional resources we need to help the public minimize the threat of rabies, reduce the agonizing death of over 25,000 kittens born on the street every year, and control the overpopulation of the estimated 50,000 free-roaming cats throughout the county. Our proposal includes taking over all the public requests for assistance with community cat issues, including trapping, transport, kitten rescue, public education, and return home for the community cats. DAS will pay for surgeries, vaccinations, and community cat wellness expenses. In our discussion, however, we were told that budget cuts make our proposal untenable at this time, while thousands of kittens and cats suffer inhumane cruelty. However, we are continuing to work in partnership with the county, discussing other options that may help. For the Love of Cats plans to TNR close to 750 cats this year. To make a measurable impact on the substantial financial burden of the overwhelming number of kittens and cats surrendered to DAS every year, that number needs to triple to make Collier County Community Cat Ordinance a real benefit to the public. Today, I brought each of you a copy of our proposal, which I think you already have, for your review. We plan to continue our great working relationship with the county. Please consider adding more support to the Community Cat Ordinance through a working partnership with For the Love of Cats for the benefit of the public and our feline community. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Patterson, I know we've had several discussions concerning that, and I think the board is pretty supportive of trying to privatize some of those operations that we're just not that good at and don't really need to be that good at. And so I don't know what the status is, but perhaps you could give us just a quick update, and are you able to work out something with the Love of Cats?
Yes, sir. We have a follow-on meeting coming up in a couple of weeks to start to talk through the details of what the partnership would look like and how we may be able to phase in this type of partnership. So they have a robust proposal, and I appreciate the detail and the effort that they put into that. So we're looking to look at how we can start to develop this partnership and grow it.
My assumption is the commission is totally in support of privatizing some of these functions. Is that accurate?
I'm totally in support as long as it makes sense. And I think we're going to get an update at our next meeting in August, and then we can have some discussions in our September budget hearings to make sure we're appropriating accordingly. That's the way I'd like to travel.
Is that pretty much the consensus of the board that this is? All right. So we're going to continue working on your proposal and working with staff to see what we can come up with. But I think we all agree, or we do all agree, that we need to do something differently than what we've been doing. And your organization is certainly the one to look to deal with cats.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Your next speaker is Patty Chulet. She'll be followed by Eva Front.
Oh. Good morning, everyone. My name is Patty Toulet, and I have been a long-time volunteer at Domestic Animal Services. The comments I'm making today are shared by Lori Harris, also a DAS volunteer who is currently out of town. As you are well aware, Naples is experiencing significant population and economic growth. This is guaranteed to substantially increase the number of stray dogs and cats throughout all of Collier County. Sadly, in anticipation of this growth, an aggressive plan was not put in place to mitigate backyard breeders and strays reproducing in the streets. All of you today, as well as your predecessors, have heard this ongoing, unnecessary, unaddressed problem within the county. Mr. Kemp has been in front of the commissioners and the DAS Advisory Board for many years to ask for help with this problem. I would like to thank you for your commitment to the current renovation of the DAS facilities. However, to my knowledge, there was or is no plan to increase the number of dog kennels. Not a single kennel has been added or expanded to house the big dogs since its inception 30 years ago. ACOs are the only way to gain control over this burgeoning issue. In reading the ACO job description on Collier County website, it reads like you must have experience as an EMT, a veterinarian, and a police officer. All that for $22 an hour. You can make that hourly wage at Costco, Walmart, Home Depot without getting attacked by a dog or a person. The job description certainly needs a factual update and creativity. It's unappealing and a bit gruesome in parts. Lee County posts on Facebook to begin to pull in some interest for ACOs with 6 bullet points for the job description. There should have been an aggressive plan years ago to end illegal backyard breeders, a trap, neuter, and release cap program, spay and neuter days for low-income families, and community educational programs, plus the collection of fines. What is the county government's plan to reduce the already unburdened shelter, especially taking into consideration the increased population and the lack of animal control officers, which I believe we have now 5 and we need 12? Thank you.
Thank you.
Your next speaker is Eva Front. She'll be followed by Brian Gilmore. These sides. Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. My name is Eva Front. I would like to ask for your help in addressing current staffing challenges, specifically the surgical veterinary position at Domestic Animal Services, which has been vacant since last September. This is a critical position for our community's animal welfare. It's encouraging to see neighboring organizations like the Gulf Coast Humane Society bringing on not 1 but 2 qualified veterinarians. This demonstrates that talented professionals are available. Public records, how do I change that?
I do it.
Okay, thank you. Public records indicate 3 applications are on file for this crucial position in Collier County. One before? Thank you. Could we please get an update on the hiring process? Hiring our own veterinarian at DAS would be more fiscally beneficial solution for both our animals and taxpayers rather than relying on third-party outsourcing. Next one, thank you. Domestic Animal Services, DAS, trade intake has surged by 20% in just 1 year for the same period of time. We will double our DAS intake within 4 or 5 years, amounting to 10 or 12,000 animals a year. Lee County, next one, please. Lee County Domestic Animal Services is successfully partnering with local veterinarians through Trap Neuter Return Voucher Program to provide free spay-neuter surgeries for community cats. This collaboration directly addressed pet overpopulation. We've been advocating for similar solutions here in Collier County for a very long time. Next one, please. Our shelter is at critical breaking point. Next one, please. We are seeing alarming reports from commissioners, updates, social media, and county posts indicating overcapacity and the potential for closing shelter intake. We are proud to be a no-kill shelter, but this pride often overshadows the immense growing suffering just outside its walls. Homeless animals don't receive a little injection at our shelter. Instead, every single day of their lives is a struggle, filled with agony, leading to an unavoidable, slow, and often agonizing death. Imagine the terror of an animal suffering for days after a car accident on the side of the road, or disabled cat or dog waiting for death to finally bring some relief. Commissioners, it is truly difficult for me to understand. Your hearts are clearly in the right place, championing solutions for our community. The public is equally on the board, stepping up when both monetary support and hands-on help whenever the call is made. So with this incredible collective will and unwavering support, why are we not yet seeing the implementation of real, lasting solutions that will finally address the persistent animal suffering we are witnessing? Thank you.
Your next speaker is Brian Gilmore, and he will be followed on Zoom by Marcia Owenick.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for hearing me today. I'm going to read from a statement I wrote this morning. My name is Brian Gilmore, and I am an owner and vice president of Collier Seawall and Dock. We have served the residents of Collier County to the very best of our ability for the past 20 years. We've been good partners with the city of Marco and always try to do the right thing. The marine construction industry is unlike most any other business in that our products must go from land to sea in order to deliver what the people that move here or already live here want for their seawall protection or dock enjoyment needs. In Naples, we have the landings that's managed by the City of Naples. And on Marco, we're able to utilize vacant lots with the landowner's approval in accordance with a city code where rules are followed and it becomes actually part of the permit. We're operating like that. We're getting by, but going forward, we're just seeing that vacant lots are becoming less and less due to the home build out. But the needs for our products and services are becoming more and more. If the county would consider making this an agenda item or making a workshop, something to that effect, to look at a plan to allow regulated use of Caxambas Park, possibly before and after normal business hours, and the vacant area at the base of the Jolly Bridge, this would help our efforts going forward into the future. It's kind of funny about marine construction. Nobody really wants to see our barges and cranes till they need us. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate and hope you will consider this. Thank you.
Ms. Patterson, is there any particular reason why we would not permit the rental of space at the Jolly Bridge? Or is that just something that is not doable?
So there's actually a long history on this site. And it in the past has been used for various activities, but the interesting part about it is it's actually right-of-way. So there's a number of issues with the site, how people can access the site safely, ingress and egress, the proper shielding of construction materials from the road. So we've worked in the past on ideas on how that can be done. None of them are simple. And as these gentlemen have explained, this is one of the last remaining deep water accesses where you can bring in a barge and barge materials around. The county has utilized it for debris removal in the past, but it continues to be challenging on how that can be safely managed for access and some other issues. It would probably be beneficial for us to bring an agenda item back to lay out all of the challenges that are being experienced with that site, as well as the fact that it is the gateway to Marco Island. So management of the site, if it's used, is incredibly important so that it doesn't become an eyesore.
Yeah, I would think that the any costs associated with the site, the shielding of it, screening of it, the access, any of that would have to be borne by the industry.
Yes,
but
sir.
I would assume that we could actually turn that into a bit of a revenue source. Commissioner Castro.
Okay. Well, it's in my district. I'm not looking to make the front door of Marco Island and the base of the bridge a revenue source. It's not a vacant lot. It's an area owned by the county that's used by citizens on a daily basis to fish, look at the sunset, enjoy wildlife. I realize the convenience it would be for our contractors to be able to utilize this taxpayer and county-owned property and a cost savings, to them. But, I live on a canal, and when people want their seawall replaced and they don't have access, and the contractors don't have access, they pull up a barge to the seawall, they replace the seawall, and it costs the person a bit more, but that's the price you pay for, living on the island. If I replaced my seawall tomorrow, I would hire a company and they would come up with a barge and they would fix it. I don't think, using Caxambas, which is already exploding at the seams. And when I became a commissioner, one of the things we stopped was using the base of the Marco Island Bridge as a convenience for these contractors. Have we approved it on a case-by-case basis? Absolutely. When the Marco Island Yacht Club was building all their docks, and we didn't want to see trucks driving all over Marco, it made sense to have that be a temporary staging area. They did exactly what our chairman said. They fenced it off in minimum time, and our handshake was leave it better than you found it, which they did, and they only took a small piece of it. But just giving blanket access to any contractor who wants to use it and come and go is a great disservice, I think, to the citizens of Marco, who that's the front door to Marco Island. And there are other options. They're just less convenient and more expensive. But my position, and I've been working with our county manager and the rest of the staff on this. And we've been taking things on a case-by-case basis, but the question being asked is just let us use it. And if you go out there on a daily basis kicking out the citizens so that, barges can pull in and drop a bunch of concrete and whatnot, and we've had issues where it's lingered there for a while. So I'm not against having a dialogue about it, but, this sits squarely in my district. I know how the citizens feel. There are other options. They're just more expensive and less convenient. And I don't think Haxambis exists for contractors to pull up barges full of, materials. And the base of the Jolly Bridge is the front door to Marco Island. And the way it looks now is the way citizens had always hoped to have it. Doesn't mean we can't address, a case-by-case basis, but just saying, every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, contractors have unfettered access to that area. It's not a vacant area. It's an area that's used by citizens on a regular basis, and forcing them out because we're using it as a staging area or dumping ground for contractors for ease of use is not something I would support, and haven't supported it in most cases, not all, but most. So we can talk about it at another time, but it's not something we haven't discussed in great detail.
All right, so let's just see if there's apparently there's no objection to at least having a discussion. I would agree with you. I wouldn't want to chase the public away. I've been out there to take pictures of birds from time to time, so I do see folks out there fishing. I don't know if there's any way that can be accommodated at the same time. I don't know anything about the geography of that particular island or area, but it sounded like Commissioner LaCastro, you didn't have an objection to at least having a discussion.
Oh, we've had plenty of discussions. If we need to make it a formal discussion in this forum, that's fine. But I've talked to these contractors on a one-on-one basis, and so has Ms. Scott, Mr. French.
I don't want to waste anybody's time. Let's just see if the board has any interest in having an agenda item on this. I would support having an agenda item, not saying that I would support doing anything differently than what we're doing, but at least have the discussion. What's the sense of the board in terms of just having the discussion?
I mean, before you ask the rest of the board, I think this is something that's specific to my district, and if it was in your district, I would be looking for you to handle it. If it's something that's bigger than a bread box and it needs to come to this board for a vote, that would surprise me, but, I'll follow the will of the board.
No, the only reason I even mentioned that is because you said you weren't against having a dialogue.
Well, I'm not in favor of it, but if it's the will of the board, but I think we're handling it just fine on our own in District 1.
What's the sense of the board? Do we?
I'm all in favor of letting him handle it.
All right.
Fine with it for now.
All right. Leave it the way it is. All right.
We have one final public comment on Zoom. Marcia Owenick. Marcia, you're being prompted to unmute yourself. I see you've done that. You have 3 minutes.
My name is Marcia Owenick. I'm a resident of Naples Park. Thank you for your time. You have heard me speak about Vanderbilt Beach Library in the past. I remain committed to enabling its long-term future. I am also very committed to the long-term success of the overall Collier County Library System. After the budget workshop, I provided you the results of my investigation of the per capita cost of the Collier County Library System versus some other Florida systems, and reported to you that the Collier County Library System is a bargain compared to Lee County, Sarasota County, and the city of St. Petersburg. I appreciate that I received responses from 2 of you who read my report. In summary, Collier County Library System currently costs about $23 per capita. All the other systems examined cost 50 to 100% more per capita. I didn't show you that the Collier County system also only has about 50% of the FTE headcount per capita served compared with these systems. Frankly, we have a bargain here. Since then, I have also carefully reviewed the charts Resource X provided to you at the budget workshop regarding the library. I was surprised and frankly disappointed that for each and every program area cited, they suggested to you that 50 to 100% of the cost of that budget line could be reduced or paid with alternative revenues. I was shocked that the range was absolutely the same for each line item, and no explanation was provided in these slides how the figures were obtained. For instance, what system has covered 100% of the cost of their space with business partnerships, library development grants, or consulting services? This slide talks great reduction in the cost of the library system, but frankly, what is the evidence that it can be achieved? And frankly, what is the target? Do we want $12 per capita, $0 per capita? We need this established. Some of the revenue strategies may well provide some relief to the general fund funding source and should be pursued. But all of the revenue strategies identified will require resources and time to effect, begging perhaps an increase in funding this year to get really serious about capturing funding from elsewhere. We are currently blessed with a terrific library system now, which frankly may be the benchmark for dollars spent per capita and FTEs applied per capita. It's clear we need realistic targets for the library system if we want it to do even better than be first in class in cost. I suggest you accept no further cuts to the library budget and direct resource efforts to other areas, such as process improvements to the procurement system that they raised, that apparently everyone seeks and which would have significant positive impact to all aspects of county work. Process changes are hard and require substantial effort. Please put them to work there instead. Thank you for all you do. This is it's difficult to manage all of the money that you have to spend over many, many needs, and I appreciate your work very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's all of our public comment.
Ms. Patterson, we have the 9:30 time certain.
Yes, sir. This is item 11A, which is our 9:30 time certain. This is a recommendation to adopt a resolution establishing the proposed millage rates as the maximum property tax rates to be levied in FY 2025-26 and reaffirm the advertised public hearing dates in September 2025 for the budget approval process. Mr. Christopher Johnson, the Division Director of Corporate Financial and Management Services, is here to present.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, Christopher Johnson, your Director of Financial and Management Services. Today, as Ms. Patterson stated, the board will adopt a resolution which establishes the proposed millage rates as the maximum property rates to be levied for the FY 25-26 budget. And we're going to reaffirm our advertised public hearing dates for the adoption of the 25-26 amended tentative budgets on September 4th, 2025, and the FY 25-26 final millage rates and final adopted Collier County budget on September 18th, 2025. Today, I'm going to briefly take you through the budget timeline. We'll talk about the July taxable value that we received on 6/27. We'll go through the proposed maximum millage rates, and finally, the board will adopt the maximum millage rate resolution. Any questions before I move on? All right, everybody knows this slide, so I'm going to go through it really quick here. In the peach color, that is what we've accomplished so far in the budget process. We had our budget policy discussion in February, our strategic and priority-based budgeting workshop in March. We adopted budget policy in March as well. The board received budget workshop documents at the beginning of June. Last month, on the 19th, we had our priority-based budgeting workshop. And today in blue there, the board, as I stated earlier, the board will adopt the proposed millage rates as the maximum property rates to be levied in FY26. On or before the 15th, you will all receive your FY26 tentative budget with a change schedule for any changes made since the June workshop. From there, on or about August 4th, we will certify to the property appraiser the maximum millage rates and confirm our public hearings. On or before August 24th, the property appraiser will send out the trim notices to all of the property owners within the county. And then there in yellow, you'll see 9/4/2025 is our first public hearing that's scheduled. That'll be at 5:05 p.m. in this building. In the bottom there in the yellow, on 9/18/2025 will be the second and final public hearing, again at 5:05 here in this building. Any questions on the timeline?
I don't see any.
All right. I'll jump into the July taxable value. As you can see here, this is the taxable value. The top three are our county-wide taxable values. They're all the same. They're the whole county. The county has increased $12.9 billion from about $152 billion to $165 billion. Of that, $4.3 billion is net new taxable value, which is utilized in the calculation of the rolled back millage rate. Down at the bottom there, you'll see the unincorporated area general fund increase there of about $8.5 billion from $96.4 to $104.9 billion. Of that, $3.2 billion is considered net new taxable value. And as I've stated before, the state ad valorem estimating conference projects continued tax base increases of about 7.8% and 6.5 in 26 and 27. The overall percent changes this year were 8.5 countywide and 8.8 in the unincorporated area. Any questions on any of that before I move on to the millage? All right, I'm sorry. This is just a chart that depicts the last 5 years of taxable value increases from 2021 to 2025, or FY 2022 to FY 2026. In the general fund or countywide, it's increased about 58%, and in the unincorporated, approximately 59% over that 5-year period. All right, on to the millage rates. This chart here depicts the first column, or third column there is the prior year adopted millage rates. In green there, you'll see the current rollback rate based on the July 1st taxable value, and in blue is the millage neutral rate, which represents last year's adopted millage rate. And then the differences are in the final column there between millage neutral and rollback. And we'll go on to the more interesting part here, the tax dollars associated with those rates. Here again, in the third column, you'll see the prior year adopted tax dollars. You'll see the current year rollback tax dollars. And in green there, you'll see the variance between last year and this year rollback. And then we have millage neutral tax dollars and the variance between millage neutral in the prior year in the blue. And finally, in the yellow, you'll see the difference between millage neutral and the rollback rate. So that totals about 27.5 million countywide and 3.5 in the unincorporated area. Any questions on this? All right, now this slide I think paints another picture that is pertinent. This is our tax scenarios versus policy. So in yellow there, you have the amount of the tax levy projected in our policy. If you recall, we utilized a 5% increase in policy. Then you have the rollback tax dollars and the variance between the rollback and policy, which is about $11 million less than the 5% for the countywide total, and about $1.1 million in the unincorporated area. Then you have the millage neutral tax dollars and the variance between millage neutral and policy. You can see countywide it's about $16.4 million increase over policy, and the unincorporated area is about $2.4 million. Any questions on that? All right. And I know this is kind of hard to read here. It was included in your packet as well, but this is the roster of proposed maximum millage rates. For the county-wide millage rates, that includes the general fund, water pollution control and conservation Collier, as well as the unincorporated area general fund millage rate. The proposed millage rates are at millage neutral. It should be noted that if these are adopted as the maximum property tax rates, there will still be, it's the maximum we can go. In September, we can still adjust accordingly. And then below there, you have your MSTU millage rates. Those were all set at policy, which was for FY26 operating expenses and any capital allocations. Any questions on that? This slide here just depicts the associated tax levies. The tax levy for FY26 would, at the maximum millage rates, would total $621.4 million. At the rollback rate, it's $589.8. And with that, Commissioners, we have a recommendation to adopt a resolution establishing the proposed millage rates as the maximum property rates to be levied in FY25-26, and reaffirm the advertised public hearing dates in September 2025 for the budget approval process. Again, that's September 4th and September 18th at 5:05 p.m.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a comment and then make a motion. But my comment is it's important to understand that we're adopting a proposed maximum tax rate today. We're not adopting the budget. Staff has already come through and prepared the budget at rollback from an expense standpoint, +3 for O&M and 5 for capital, if I'm not mistaken.
If I may, Commissioner, the budget was built around the 3% for operating, the 5% for capital, at an overall 5% policy rate was what that fit into.
That was the policy that was set by the board.
Correct,
And
correct.
That was fine for where we're going. So with that, I'd like, I made it really simple. You made it complex.
I apologize.
Cut it out. I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the rate neutral from a revenue standpoint.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We do have public comment.
We have one registered speaker, Brad Cornell.
Morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. I'm Brad Cornell, and I'm here on behalf of Audubon Western Everglades and Audubon, Florida. Thank you for the opportunity to briefly address you on the proposed millage rate adoption for fiscal 26. Couple of comments. Conservation Collier millage rate has been reduced over the past 2 years to 0.2096 mils from the longtime original voter referendum supported quarter mill, 0.25. Audubon Western Everglades and Audubon, Florida recommend the adoption of a millage levy for Conservation Collier be returned to that quarter mill that had been the longtime levy. The primary rationale for increasing funding to restore is to restore endowment-style trust funds for perpetual management and public access opportunities and obligations for the soon-to-be 6,400 plus acres of preserves, including the pending acquisition of Williams Farm. The rationale also considers the need to increase the acreage of both urban and large acreage preserves that are not being provided by the state or the federal government or their programs. So Audubon thanks you very much for considering our recommendation to support the restoration of the Conservation Collier quarter mill levy. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Johnson?
I would just need a motion and
I made the motion. The only thing I didn't add to my motion specifically, Mr. Chair, was the dates for the public hearings, which was read into, so, but the rate neutral and the budget hearings is.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, that passed unanimously.
thank you, Commissioners.
Ms. Patterson, I think we can move on to the 10 a.m.
Yes, sir. Item 11B is our 10 o'clock time certain. This is a recommendation to accept the tourism impact study for the sports complex expansion for the future phases of the Paradise Coast Sports Complex. Mr. Jay Tusa, your Director of Tourism, is here to begin the presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Patterson. Good morning, Commissioners, Chairman. This morning we have two presentations for you. The first is for Paradise Coast Sports Complex, the study that we did. So we've been working on this over the past few months at your direction. And then following your discussion, then we'll have a presentation on Sun and Fun. That would be item 11C. And let's see, next up we will ask the Hunden representative, Matthew Avila, to come up and do the presentation for Paradise Coast Sports Complex.
Thank you, Jay. Commissioners, thank you for having me here today. I'm very excited to present our final report, or a summary of the final report that you all have had. We'll cover some of the main items that we found throughout our assessment of the sports complex, as well as some of our recommendations for moving forward. Next slide, please. So to go over a little bit on why we were hired and some of the items that we covered throughout this assessment, our goal was to conduct a thorough market demand, financial feasibility, and economic impact study for the sports complex, as well as looking at multiple scenarios for future expansion. Next slide. So to summarize our market findings, there's a few points here that I want to touch on in terms of some of the items that we evaluated throughout this study process. We looked closely at many markets across the state in terms of softball, baseball, as well as soccer, And then at the indoor sports landscape as well, looking at basketball, volleyball primarily, but also support sports that could be played within those facilities. To hit on a few key points, we found that baseball and softball, there is a significant opportunity in the space and a lack of facilities in the region. We understand that there are many competitive facilities to the north of us, but in Collier County, there's a significant opportunity to attract tournaments and large events here on the baseball landscape. Those tournaments and events would occur during the summer months, which we'll talk about here in a sec, where that is typically the slow period here, and we'll see some hotel data that supports that here in a sec. In terms of the soccer landscape, the facility is one of the most premier soccer complexes in the country. You all are very blessed with the caliber of the facility currently, as well as the management and FC Naples that plays there today. In terms of basketball and volleyball, Central Florida is quite crowded, and there are many projects that are in the pipeline on the indoor landscape. So that is pushed, and you'll see in our recommendations, to a later phase in the project. However, can be up for consideration with your all's guidance, especially looking at some of the economic impacts that would generate and potential fortification for storm and inclement weather. In terms of the support space, the hotel industry perspective, we spoke with many hoteliers as well as the Hotel and Restaurant Association and found that those sports travelers in the winter months, they can't pay that high rate that is currently in the market for those hotel offerings, which makes it hard to make sense for those tournament operators. And then finally, in terms of best practices, we looked at many national case studies within the state of Florida, but also across the country in terms of flexibility and phasing of these projects, and found that many of them grow and evolve over time, which is exactly what is occurring at Paradise Coast today. Next slide, please. So before I get into some of our findings and recommendations, I wanted to touch on this because it is so important for the conversation today, is the overall seasonality of RevPAR, which is rate and occupancy, the multiple of the two. And those months where you'll see the significant dips are those warmer months of the year in the summer, which with those baseball and softball periods, we expect that to significantly be pulled upwards, which will be incremental growth for the hotels and the overall economy in Collier County, whereas those indoor sports, the basketball and volleyballs, tournaments that would come here would be during the winter months where we already see a lot of visitation from soccer. Next slide, please. So our recommendations have validated some of the preliminary plans that have been completed for the outdoor expansion of 5 softball diamonds and 6 baseball diamonds. Those would be multi-purpose and be able to play soccer on the outfields. We're recommending additional facilities in terms of food and beverage to accommodate the additional fields. And then finally, a later phase for the indoor field house of 6 basketball courts, which could accommodate 12 volleyball courts. Next slide. So to go through a few of the financial projections before we open it up for questions and comments, we completed 4 scenarios. One, which is the current facility. The second is the recommended outdoor elements. The third would be the recommended indoor elements. And then the fourth would be full expansion of the complex moving forward with both outdoor and indoor elements recommended. Next slide. So to summarize some of our financial projections, we worked with current management as well as staff to look at how the facility is performing today and made projections based on our expectations for additional tournaments. And as you can see, we're estimating a significant growth in visitation of the complex under the recommended scenario 2, reaching over 517,000 visitors by stabilization and an overall healthy financial performance for the venue moving forward by elevating the summer months of the year, which will help with staffing as well as other maintenance and upkeep of the facility. Next slide. To summarize some of our impacts here,
For scenario 2, our recommended scenario, over a 30-year time frame, $18.8 million in hotel tax generation for the county. And then the figures below are those economic impacts in terms of spending, earnings, supported jobs in the county, and total tax impact, including sales tax in the county. Those net impacts would be compared to scenario 1. So over 800,000 or 800 million, excuse me, in net spending with scenario 2, expanding the outdoor facility. Next slide. So a few comments I wanted to make here. As mentioned, scenario 2, the recommended scenario, having significant softball and baseball tournaments. We're estimating 14 large softball events and 20 large baseball events upon stabilization, and significant additional attendance related to those events and overall use of the facility. Next slide. So finally here, encapsulating everything discussed within this presentation, I wanted to show a detailed chart which really hits home on the point of elevating the room night generation during the summer months. So you'll see the current facility does not generate significant room nights during the months of May through October, but introducing those baseball and softball events will significantly grow the room night generation from the facility and across Collier County due to that expansion of the outdoor facility, really hitting home the point that TDC funds to support the outdoor expansion is justified. And with that, I'll open it up for comments and questions that you all may have.
Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Chairman. We spoke yesterday, and I had some concerns, and, in the back of my mind, I keep thinking about summer months in South Florida, especially Southwest Florida, having outside sporting events and bringing a lot of people in from different parts of the country to participate in these big events. Our weather is always an issue, and I expressed some concern about that. Weather here is unpredictable. Weather here can be torrential, dangerous, especially with lightning, things like that. And I think we strive to have an experience here in Collier County when people come here, not to have a bad experience, but a good experience. And maybe there's a reason in South Florida they don't have a lot of outside baseball, things like that going on. I don't know if that was taken consideration in your study because of the weather. And secondly, I noticed if you go back 2 slides, I think it was it? You had those scenarios. Oh, one more. Go the other way. Sorry. And did you take consideration? I see in here you do have something called banquet special events.
Yep.
And you have numbers assigned to those. Now, that for indoor events would be like things like sporting shows, hunting shows, boat shows, things like that wouldn't be affected by the weather.
Yep.
And I look at the numbers you even have here. You got 58, 58, 73, 82. What are those a total? No, those are the numbers. So you're showing almost a greater amount of numbers for those type of events.
Yep.
Wouldn't those be held more likely in a nice, large center?
Correct. Yep.
Protected from the weather?
Yeah, so we projected over 20 additional events that would be held within the indoor facility. So for that scenario 4, getting over 82 special events. So that may be a boat show, it may be a trade show or a gala that's held within the facility. So we looked at some comparable facilities across the country. One in our study was Legends Event Center in Bryan, Texas. So we actually spoke with them throughout this study process and understood how many special events they hold within their facility. That's an 8-court venue in Bryan. So we programmed that in, and those events are significantly beneficial and obviously aren't exposed to the weather.
Yeah, and I'm just bringing it up because I don't have a problem us needing to finish this complex because it's our baby now. It's our job to get it done, but maybe one should be built before the other before we just jumping into something that, that's just my opinion. Yep. Listen, I got 4 other people up here who are going to make that decision in their own opinion, but I just wanted to express that before we move forward. All right, thank you.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes, good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ostensibly, I'm not in opposition of the consideration for what we're talking about here. The one thing that I haven't seen enough of, I should probably say, is a detailed analysis of the O&M associated with the expansion of these facilities. That burden falls to our tax base. O&M is operations and maintenance, by the way. That burden falls to our tax base. I concur with Commissioner Kowal that we need to, there's at least a perception that we should finish this park, but I have had other business adventures where expansion was recommended to me, but we didn't make any more money. As a matter of fact, when we expended more money, we lost more money. And so, for the world, I'm not saying yes or no to this expansion until I see a far more detailed analysis on the O&M expected, not just from the operations and maintenance, but also a capital reserve for replacement that comes along. We as a government haven't been as steadfast in managing those capital assets appropriately for the long-term haul.
In terms of the operations and maintenance, I'm glad you're here, Adrian. My understanding is that the revenue from this facility currently covers, I may be mistaken on this, so it's a question, but I believe that the revenue currently covers the operations and maintenance, and that in the long term, if we expand these facilities, we're not going to be looking to the taxpayers for operating and maintenance funds. Is that close to being accurate?
I'll address that. I'm Adrian Moses, General Manager of the Paradise Sports Complex, representing sports facilities companies. To answer the questions, I'll address Commissioner McDaniel first, and then your question.
That's what I thought your question was.
No, it wasn't, but it's
going to be responsible
it's
for
okay.
operations.
The projections that we have for the development of future outfields takes a current 9-field complex, which hopefully soon will be a 10-field complex, and increase it by more than 50% in size to a 22-field complex, 100% in size. What that doesn't reflect in our models of how we operate facilities, that's not a 100% increase in staffing and a 100% we already have a general manager. We already have a finance manager. We already have all of the staff that operate the facility. It's not a one-for-one increase when it comes to when we add fields. It's not necessarily a complete there. We already have that base of staff there. We will increase slightly on overhead in terms of having like an events and tournaments manager for baseball and softball, but it doesn't necessarily mean the increase. The increase in revenue that we would see from the baseball and softball tournaments in the summer would easily be enough to cover the increased amount of COGS that we would spend in operating those events. So when it comes to maintenance and the current financial health of the sports complex, it's close. We're currently running hundreds of thousands of dollars in our operating budget. In our way that our operating budget is reviewed and managed, that we have a separate budget for our landscaping and maintenance, and it doesn't take into account things like capital improvements and things like that. However, if you take everything that we are currently operating at this year with our facility, we're going to be very close to a cost even minus the capital expenditures. The benefit of having these fields means that the amount of revenue that we would be able to keep at a plateau over the year means that we would keep consistent revenue over the year and be able to operate at a profit.
I think the comment I would make to the board is that we don't have to make a decision today as to which scenario we're going to go forward with. That's going to take a whole lot more analysis. The next agenda item deals with the sixth penny of a tourist tax, and I think I can say with a bit of certainty that if we don't move forward with that, this discussion is just academic because we don't have the money to do either scenario 2 or 3 or 4 going forward. So again, there's going to be a lot of discussion as to which scenario we ultimately go with. Commissioner LaCastro, are you finished, Commissioner McDaniel?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I did, and I certainly understand there's an economy of scales that comes along when you have a certain amount of personnel, you have a certain amount of assets, you can expand those asset base and better utilize the personnel appropriation that you have. But just from what I understand so far, overall, the park is still operating at a deficit to a plus $2 million, 2.3 or so with exposure to our tax base. And so those are the numbers that I'm wanting to have a look at, along with the capital reserves requisite to be able to have asset replacement as we go. Collier County, for an eternity, has been really good at building really pretty things, but we haven't brought into account the long-term exposure for the capital asset replacement, and then oftentimes even the ongoing maintenance. My brain operates a little differently, but I know that aggregately out here, there are hundreds of millions of dollars of deficits that we have in capital asset replacement and maintenance, stormwater being one of those, roads and bridges being another. So I understand the overall economic viability of what we're talking about, and I know we're going to have future conversations with regard to this. I just was expressing thought process that I've been chewing on for a while to try to get happy with this expansion and feel halfway certain that it's not going to create an additional burden.
Yeah. If I may, we have to look back before we look forward. When the sports complex was initially struck and the plan was built out, the operating contract that our organisation had was based upon the facility being built out with the baseball and softball fields being built, essentially to get the facility to a level of profit, to be able to cover its own costs. The whole plan was to have the facility as its entirety, to make sure that it wasn't a burden. We are at our capacity at the moment. We're getting very, very close to being in that crossover point where it can stand on its own 2 feet legitimately. But ultimately, the complex was due to have a deficit to begin with, and then develop into a profit center.
I'm aware of those things, Adrian, and I hope you don't take what I'm saying as negative by any stretch. You folks are doing a wonderful job. I can't express my thanks enough. But if we have to look back, we got to look back. It was represented to this board when I brought this item forward that this was going to be a $60-80 million TPC, total project cost. Right now we're at $115 million, and we're staring at more, another, depending on what the ultimate costs are for this expansion are. We have to bring that into the revenue stream as well. We have to capitalize for the ongoing maintenance and repairs and such. So there's both sides of that equation, and I'm just expressing my thought processes with regard to that.
Understood, and thank you.
Yes, sir. Commissioner LaCastro.
Thank you, Chairman. When we met, I made a comment, and I just wanted to go on the record and repeat it. We all got a much more multiple detailed slides here. You're just showing sort of a summary, and I just wanted to reiterate again, like how impressed I was with the depth and the options. And one of the things I had said at a previous meeting is, don't show me 50 slides of an aerial view of a baseball field. I know what it looks like. I want to see the dollars, the cents, where the money's going, and this was a really good start. I mean, if you went through all 4 of those different slide packages, it was very close to what I was looking for, if not spot on. On the flip side, I'll just make this generic comment. I don't want to get tunnel vision on the sports complex. So I know what was promised and what we should do, and as I said in my office, we can do anything, but we can't do everything. And tourism dollars can be used for lots of different things. Some things right now that are in a significant need / disrepair. So before we put gold plating on top of the Platinum Sports Complex, which might be the smart thing to do, so I don't say that with sarcasm, but I don't think anybody drives by the sports complex and goes, man, somebody better fix that place up. It's a total dump. But we could drive by 10 different things right now, maybe 20, that are a little less visible that actually could benefit from tourism dollars. So I'm looking at the overall use of what we're so lucky to live in a county where tourism dollars can be pulled. Many counties don't have that advantage, but I don't want to get tunnel vision just on the sports complex. I mean, look at the heroic efforts that the county staff and Commissioner Hall had to do on Sun and Fun, years before he was even sitting in the seat. That could have been maybe rescued with some tourism dollars and whatnot. And like you say, we always want to look back. I want to look back not just on the sports complex. I don't want to get tunnel vision on the sports complex. And, my last comment will be a military one. Rising tide lifts all boats. So it's great if we have this Taj Mahal sports complex with every field we need. Let's make sure we're not doing it at the detriment of maybe some other things that also support tourism, that also need a helping hand. I think Commissioner McDaniel even sort of touched on that a little bit. We have to look at the whole big picture. But on a positive note, I'll just reiterate again, really great job, not just on the couple of slides you're showing here, but on the complete set you sent all of us. It was very helpful. And you can tell a lot of effort went into it. And that's what we need. These are big dollars here. We don't want to see 2 slides and then just say, yay or nay. We're trying to all do a deep dive and make a smart financial decision on where tourism dollars are best invested, not just spent. So I know we still have some work to do, but thank you.
Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chairman. Matthew, good job on this. And Mr. Tusa, good job streamlining it for us. I think the mainest thing that we have to remember today is that this study is required so that we can use TDT funds if we decide to do whatever scenario or at all. And I could just echo everybody. Besides the return on, what's the real return on investment? It's not money spent, it's money invested. Invested money you get back, spent money you never do. It's there's things to consider, like Commissioner McDaniel said, the capital reserves. We've seen the results of some of our county assets being deteriorated over 20 years with no real capital plan to put anything back into it. Sun and Fun. And the other thing that has not been mentioned that I think we do need to consider at some point is the debt that's already incurred to pay back and include that debt service in any financial figures that we come across. I think that softball and baseball can be played in the summer. I think that they can plan to do things early. Yes, we have afternoon rains, but there's still half a day. We play tennis, we play golf, we ride our bikes, we do all kinds of things early, and I think that can be incorporated. So I don't think that's exactly a deal killer, but it's a concern. I do want to say again, thanks for the thorough explanation, the thorough study of it that will allow us, if we choose to move further. Thank you.
Right. And just, I guess, do we have any registered speakers on this particular item?
We do not, sir.
Then we need a motion to accept the report. And in terms of what scenarios we ultimately go to, if any, that'll be for a future discussion. And as I said, that discussion becomes somewhat academic if we don't have the revenue to move forward, and that's going to be the next item. I do want to say something on Sun and Fun, and Commissioner Hall, you did a wonderful job in getting that done, but I get a little bit of a twinge every time I hear someone say, well, we just ignored that. The county commission did not ignore Sun and Fun. The county staff did, and I don't generally criticize staff, but I'm talking about staff members that are no longer our staff. But in 2017, the county commission set aside $17 million for maintenance and repairs of our aquatic facilities. In 2024, I think we still had $17 million in the bank. That was not the fault of the commission. So when we start criticizing past commissions on ignoring, Sun and Fun and that sort of thing, and I'm not saying that's what you're doing, but I just want the public to know that we had a staff issue there that ignored that, and so we'll move on. Commissioner McDaniel, you had some additional.
I'm going to make a motion for acceptance of the report.
I just want to make a comment, and it's no disrespect to what you're saying, and I get that, but I also think our job is to also monitor our districts. And if we think the county staff is dropping the ball, then our job is to sit here at a meeting or to call people in and say, hey, I've got a park that has been dysfunctional for a year or two. What the hell are you guys doing with the money? So I look at it as when we say county staff, that's us too. So, I definitely hear what you're saying, but, we're looking forward. But I know when I make a comment and I say something like looking back, would have, could have, should have, I just think that's part of the learning process. We can't go backwards, but I'll just speak for me. I consider myself county staff, and if I drive by Donna Fiala's park and I think the furniture is in disarray, which it is, and I met with Mr. French and I said I'd like a plan for putting lounge chairs out there that aren't broken and rusty and that sort of thing, then we make a plan. So I think it is a team effort, and I'm proud of the 5 people that are up here because I see us working a lot closer with county staff, and when we see something, and we did the same thing I think with Conservation Collier, and maybe Brad Cornell will disagree with me, but I think we took a look and did a deeper dive and said, hey, there's a ton of money sitting in the bank somewhere. How's it being spent? So I look at it as it's part of our responsibility as well, and it's not throwing stones or anything, but I'm not sitting back waiting for the county staff to make my district look better. I want to work with them, and I'll get it back in the lane here. And for the today, right now, we 5 of us are committed to making sure that, whether it's tourism dollars or it's our county money from other pots are invested properly. And it's your job to prove to us the best way that you recommend steering those dollars. And hopefully we've learned from some things in the past that we don't repeat. And I think we have. But, I'm county staff. I have a badge just like everybody else in this audience, and I think that we all get the credit and we all get the blame. We're one team.
And I will fully admit that I didn't go over to Sun and Fun and look at the internal plumbing of that facility. And if I did, I don't think I would have known what I was looking at.
Not your district.
And it's not my district. But I just want the public to understand that the commission did set aside the funds for that, and it just didn't get spent. Commissioner Hall.
Thank you. I just want to echo, when I make the comments of for 20 years things went south, there's no woulda, coulda, should, there's no blame for anyone. But I do know that we've rebuilt it. It's in great shape, and we have a renewed commitment to maintain it and to watch over it and love it for years to come. And I just want to say again publicly, thank you to Mr. French, Mr. Hannaran, Mr. Deloney, and all of the staff that worked tirelessly.
Can we clarify that to be the young Deloney?
We can.
Not the old guy?
Yeah.
He didn't do anything.
Yeah, the pretty one. But no, they worked tirelessly. There was a lot of obstacles that came up, including a bad concrete pour right there in the 23rd hour. And they got through that. They got the contractor on board. There was a lot of things that had to come through at the last minute just to get open by the July the 4th. And I'm glad to report that on Saturday last week, we had over 800 visitors. So Sun and Fun is back in the saddle.
Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Chairman. Since my colleagues up here kind of going back and forth on investment, the profit, and debt, and things like that, I have to ask our comptroller a quick question, because I had this question, yesterday we had raised it when we were speaking, reference to, I think it was phase 2. There was about $16 million borrowed from the tourism tax fund for phase 2 of the sports compact.
Thank you. For the record, Crystal Kenzel, Comptroller. Yes, there's $16 million split between the beach facilities funding and the beach park funding. Yes, beach park facilities has 6.8, beach renourishment about 9.4 remaining, and the total debt out is 88 million on the pure debt that was borrowed in the reference from Commissioner McDaniel. The other two, the 16, is on top of the 88.
That was money that was taken out of tourism tax fund. It was designated for specific things like beach renourishment, things like that.
And went towards this. We're paying that back at about $500,000 a year, which divides 16 million by that, and we will probably never see that back in. So,
It's only 8 years.
So I guess my reasoning behind this is today we're going to vote on a 6.
Please don't let Commissioner McDaniel do the math for you. Call me up anytime. Thank you.
2 years or something.
Sorry about that. That was bad.
But I know today's, our discussion is the 6-cent tax that, you know, we want to get on the ballot for 26 November, I believe, next. So I think we have to understand that we've already been taking money from this fund, this account. So, I mean, is this something that we will be repaying ourselves back from that 6 cent, or is it just purely going to go towards?
Let's get through this right now.
I'm just saying, you know, we're trying to collect more money from the citizens, and we need to give some money back to the citizens.
We got to be careful when we say collecting money from the citizens. Yeah. The sixth penny is collecting money from our tourists, not from our.
Okay,
so,
all
I mean,
right.
there is, and that's going to be the distinction that we're going to have to make if the board moves forward, is that this is a tax that our visitors pay, not our citizens pay.
I understand that.
Not that our visitors aren't citizens. A lot of them aren't, but some are. All right, so we have a motion and a second to accept the report.
Has anybody seconded it?
It's been seconded.
Yes, Christian Hall.
Let's go ahead and go through that, and then we'll take a break. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that passed unanimously. Let's come back at 11:45.
10:45.
Or 10:45 if you prefer.
It's pocket watch.
Chair, you have a live mic.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you'll please take your seats, we're going to reconvene. Ms. Patterson?
Yes, sir. That brings us to our next time certain. That is item 10A. This is a recommendation to direct the county attorney to advertise an ordinance for the purpose of levying and imposing the 6th cent of the tourist development tax, subject to approval by the voters of Collier County at the general election on November 4th, 2026. Again, Mr. Jay Tusa, your Director of Tourism, is here to present.
Hello again, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. So this agenda item is to kind of piggyback on our last agenda item with the Paradise Coast Sports Complex, and this would be the funding mechanism for the expansion. And so this would be a referendum to the voters to implement a 6 penny of tourist development tax funds.
All right, let me make a few comments. I brought this before the board about a month or so ago, just to get everybody used to the idea that perhaps this would be something to consider, with the intent of bringing it back today and actually making a motion to move forward with the referendum. So there's several people here that have a lot of knowledge about this particular issue, including Jay Tusa, but I don't know that it's going to be necessary to hear from them. But I want to make a few comments in case the board needs some additional information. I've been working with the Chamber of Commerce, with the Collier County chapter of the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association, and I believe Chris Lopez is here to talk about that, with the understanding that this is not something that will ultimately pass if the board votes to put this on the ballot, unless we have the business community behind it, because the business community is able to raise money and do a campaign. Now, in addition to trying to get the business community behind this issue, I'll be working with some of the soccer families, some of the soccer and amateur sports folks in our community, which is really a very large proportion of our ad valorem taxpayers and citizens of this community, have kids that participate in soccer and softball and baseball. And they're going to understand that the way to enhance the facilities for those activities is to approve this, is to vote for this. And the key issue will be informing our voters that this is a levy imposed on our tourists to help complete these facilities and our beach renourishment and other things going forward. It's not a tax on our ad valorem taxpayers. So that's going to be critically important. And I hope that if this is approved by the board to go forward, I hope that the entire commission takes an opportunity to inform their voters in their different emails that you send out, your monthly newsletters. Let people know what this really is about, and that it really is a tax on our visitors. I think we had a really interesting conversation about the Hunden report. We're going to have some more discussion about the Hunden report as it relates to the Sun and Fun. But that whole discussion, as I said, is totally academic if we don't approve this 6th penny. There is no way to move forward with completion of the Paradise Park. Now, the 6th penny will generate somewhere around $9 to $10 million a year. And that only about 70% of it can be used for a project like the Paradise Coast. And so there'll be plenty of money available from that penny for additional advertising, for other types of projects that the county may want to work on, for beach renourishment as an example. And once Sun and Fun Paradise Coast is completed, there'll still be that tourist tax will continue. So that'll be a long-term benefit for the community. The Restaurant Association, the Lodging Association, they recognize that this will generate a lot of tourism dollars going forward for the community and will help sustain that industry in our community. And so that's the basis for my bringing this forward, is that, again, I see this as the only way to go forward if we're going to do any of these types of things. But it's not just limited to Paradise Coast. We have a couple commissioners lit up, and again, for the commission, we do have plenty of folks here in the audience that can provide some insight. I would like Mr. Lopez, if he would come on up, just to confirm what I've said in terms of the Restaurant and Lodging Association, in terms of recognizing the potential importance of this.
Of course. Thank you, Chairman. Commissioners, appreciate your time and consideration this morning. Chris Lopez, Regional Director for the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association here in Southwest Florida. Yeah, we've had some really robust conversations. Our Collier chapter, made up of many of the business management and business ownership here in our restaurant and lodging space and our resort space, are really excited about this opportunity. They're, I did just some quick research for a comparison. Sarasota County, 6% bed tax. Palm Beach County, 6% bed tax. Jacksonville, Ponte Vedra, 6% bed tax. I think those are some comparable markets to what we have here in Naples with the resort style, the water style, and the breadth of and the options of lodging and things that we have here. So, I think that this will be certainly an opportunity for the industry to get in front and educate our electorate that this is not a tax on the citizenry of Collier County. This is a tax on every visitor that comes in and spends one night in a hotel or a short-term rental of less than 6 months here in Collier County. So it's a tremendous opportunity. Commissioner Saunders is correct. We've had some great stakeholder engagement meetings as well as some additional meetings with our FRLA chapter and our members. We look forward to the opportunity to educating the community, educating our own members on this, and really driving what could be some really great dollars that we can invest in the future on many of the projects around the county.
There's a young lady in the audience, Veronica. If you wouldn't mind coming up for just a quick minute, and I apologize, I did not get your last name, so when you get up here, I'm just going to ask you a quick question. I hate to put you on the spot, but I met you yesterday at our meeting concerning this issue, and you had some really interesting comments in terms of what your organization does and the facilities that are needed for our kids to play soccer and other sports. For the record, though, could you state your name?
Sure. My name is Veronica Docio, and I'm founder and director of Naples United FC. Naples United FC is there's 3 arms to it. There's a soccer academy, there's a foundation, it's called Soccer for All, and then we have a first team that represents Naples at the semi-professional level. So that first team gives opportunity to our youth that are learning how to play soccer in Naples, an opportunity to showcase their talent and obtain a future within the sport, whether it's professional soccer or college scholarships. Then we have our non-for-profit side of it, our foundation, which we work with organizations like Youth Haven and Salvation Army, and we provide at youth, homeless kids an opportunity to participate within our program for free or at very little cost. So that's why we need these fields. Right now, I have 12-year-olds training at 10 p.m. because we don't have enough fields. Part of our growth this year was within the Youth Haven and Salvation Army. We're giving those kids opportunity to play within our organization through our Soccer for All initiative. And now we have to come up with creative ways with Paradise Sports Complex to be able to accommodate those kids within our program because of the lack of the fields. So Naples is growing tremendously. We need to keep our kids on the pitch. We need to keep these kids playing soccer and participating in sports and away from the streets, the couch, the TV, the drugs, and everything that comes after. So that's my...
Thank you very much. I just wanted the board, we all know the importance of soccer and other youth sports to our kids here, but I thought having you give a real-life story as to what you have to go through just for your organization to get kids on soccer fields. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to say out loud that ostensibly I'm not in opposition of bringing this initiative forward and putting it on the ballot. But I also want to say at the same time, in a previous discussion, we talked about ongoing operational expenses associated with these new capital expenditures. the overall exposure to our tax base that comes along with that. And I really want to dive into those specifics with knowns that we have, with operational exposures as well as future capital investments that are requisite out of the revenue streams that we have in fact coming. I also want to say that there's an elephant in the room that has to do with this, and this has to do with the capacity of our landfill. That is a critical life-sustaining necessity that has a huge impact on overall business all the way across the board. And there were decisions made by previous boards to encroach upon those lands and those holdings for this facility at all. And so as we're moving forward with this robust adventure to expand this facility and build the ball fields and do the indoor field house, I would also like to be I would like to remind everybody that there are other issues on a particularly larger scale that impact our whole community that are going to be infringed upon with this expansion if we don't make some different adjustments in how we're managing our overall waste collection. And then last but not least, and again, this is up for future discussion, but one of the things that sold me on Paradise Coast in the first place was the 80,000 square foot indoor Cat 5 stadium inside the dam of I-75. And that is protection for all of our residents when the inevitable next storm surge comes inside I-75. And although I'll be the first to admit that I sometimes have selective memory, and somebody in that back row reminded me that maybe the phasing of this got changed around, but I had it in my brain early on that stadium was going to be one of the first assets that was constructed over there. And now it's been moved off to, in this proposal, it's been moved off to 3 to 5 years out. So as we're moving through this process, if in fact this board votes to put this on the referenda next year in November, I just want to make sure that we're giving due consideration to a multifaceted approach with regard to how we're utilizing these funds.
Commissioner LaCastro.
Thank you, Chairman. One of the things that county elected officials did that I thought was really smart, and it predates me, is the last time they voted to put something on the ballot and have citizens decide on an added taxes, they had a laundry list of things that money could support. And I think the reason it was attractive to citizens is they saw how diverse and how important a lot of those things were. Mental health, there was a bunch of other things. I said this at the last meeting. We don't want this to sound like the Paradise Coast Sports Complex tax. The other thing I would say, so I think the chairman even alluded to it, there's some other things that people need to understand. Number one, where the money's coming from. And lastly, I'll just say, when I was first elected, and I'm sure Commissioner Saunders and Commissioner McDaniel, they would even echo this from the more years they've served here. There used to be press all sitting in the back here. In fact, there was 2 rows reserved for press, right? Now, they all watch it on Zoom. Press, if you're listening, please get this correct, because 2 meetings ago, I think it was, we had a citrus grove owner who wanted to ask our permission to at least move forward with the request to no longer pick oranges, and land that he owns. He would like to pursue the request, which is very complicated, to possibly build something on his property. And when we voted to allow that legal request to go forward, of course, I made a comment, hey, press, please get it right. I don't want to see on the front page of the paper, idiot commissioners approved 2,000 houses in an area that won't hold that. And what do you think that some of social media and the press had? That exact twist. We don't want that to happen here. Number one, we're not approving any tax, okay? We're approving, if it got approved, the ability to put it on, to have the citizens vote for it. And so you wait and see tomorrow. Somebody will report, commissioners raise our taxes. And of course, we're not doing that. But lastly, like what I'll echo, and to Commissioner McDaniel's point, you meant field house. You were saying stadium, but I think the term we were using about the Cat 5 was the field house. But, you know, absolutely. You're saying stadium. So I was just.
Forgive me.
Moxnix. But lastly, you know, like I said, I will just say, I think looking at all the things that those dollars, if it was passed, could be used for, and making sure that's part of the advertisement would be very beneficial, as it was last time when we had a large list and citizens approved it, and then we picked those things off one by one. Field houses, or the sports complex, is obviously a big leader, but it's not the only thing. And I think if we don't get this out correctly, if it does pass, it runs the risk of, oh, we're taxing citizens to, you know, to increase the size of Paradise Coast Sports Complex, which that wouldn't be what we're doing, and we're not voting to collect any more tax. It's to allow the citizens to decide. So, whoever's listening, just want to make sure you're taking good notes, and you're helping us educate the public as well as to the possibility of what we're discussing today. Thank you,
Commissioner Colwell.
Thank you, Chairman. This is more of an educational question for myself, but I know the young lady just spoke reference to their soccer organizations and leagues. Now, I know when my children were young, they participated in our football clubs here, you know, the Naples Bears, the Hurricanes. We always had access to the schools, the public schools, their fields, the football fields. We had our games there on Saturday. Is that not an option for you to use the schools for soccer?
Veronica, you'll have to come up to the microphone.
I'm sorry.
It's not for multiple reasons. One is a lot of the fields don't have lighting. For example, a lot of middle schools don't have lighting. Our busiest, you know, when the fall season and the spring season is for sports in the U.S., it's also when high schools are playing sports, multiple. So like the stadiums are being used for soccer and for every other sport that the school needs. So it's not available to us to rent during our highest season, our highest demand for fields.
I was just curious because we used to use them on the weekends and we had our practices usually off field.
Yes, no, unfortunately, you know, schools are busy with their own programming to be able to rent it out to clubs and organizations outside of their school. We may get lucky once or twice, but we can't run a program depending on that.
I mean, as a possibility to use them. That's what I meant, like as an option.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility, but they're too busy for us to depend on them. We need, you know, the county fields.
I appreciate that.
No problem.
If you'd stay there, when I get called on, I have a question for you. So, but I don't think I'm next.
You can have a seat if you want, though.
Yeah. Stay close.
Commissioner Colwell, are you?
I'm done. Yeah, I just was curious. We've used them in the past. So.
Commissioner Hall.
Thank you, Chairman. I just have a question. If we move forward with this, who gets to choose the ballot language?
The ballot language is set by statute. So that's a legal question for Mr.
It's in the ordinance.
It's in the ordinance.
That'll be the language.
Well, that's a good question. Are we able? We can change. Can we change that language?
It's pretty much statutorily set.
No, we can.
I just hate the double when I look at the ballot sometimes on these amendments or whatever, it's the double negative. What happens if, only when. I mean, it's like, I just want to make sure that the people know exactly what they're voting for, and it's plain and it's simple and it's up front.
You want me to read it?
Go for it.
Shall Collier County ordinance be approved authorizing Collier County to levy and collect an additional 1%, and it should say 1 cent, tourist development tax from all short-term rentals in order to provide additional revenue to fund promotion, related infrastructure improvements, and other authorized uses as set forth in the statute 125.0101 or 04 Florida statute. Don't write down my misspoken words, please.
All right.
It's right here in the, it's in the.
I'm glad. I just wanted to clarify.
Yep.
My pea brain.
And it doesn't answer the question. Can we modify that question, or if it's not clear enough?
It's, the statute requires that language.
Okay, so there you go.
Commissioner LaCastro.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, I wanted to just piggyback off of Commissioner Cole's question, because I do get this question a lot. You've already answered it. That was one of the questions I get is, how about the schools? But the second part is, where did all these kids play soccer before the sports complex was built? And I think your answer is going to be there weren't as many playing, but now that we have a location, it has attracted more people. Is that the answer? Or are we building a sports complex so businesses can come in and run big soccer tournaments and things like that? And yes, it does bring revenue into the county and hotels and gas and all that. But there's some citizens out there, and I've said this before, and I'm just speaking for my constituents, that think the sports complex is finished, or that we've built something that, much like sometimes we take hits where our county parks are being used by businesses to run, jet ski operations and this and that, and not as much revenue is coming back to us. Somebody's paying an $8 launch fee, and then they're making $400,000 a year. In the case of like your business, your organization, or whatnot, it's grown because the sports complex exists. That's sort of part one. Is that true? Or, where, like Commissioner Cole said, where were all these kids playing soccer before the sports complex?
So, from our experience as an organization, we grow throughout the entire year. So for those of you that are well aware with the soccer works, is there's a tryout season, right? And usually the clubs grow within that tryout season. But for us, we grow steady of people moving in to Naples with kids looking for soccer. Another thing is soccer within the United States is growing as well. Now we have the World Cup coming up next year. We had the club of the World Cup of Clubs. So the interest of the sport within our community has grown as well.
But if we didn't have these fields, then you wouldn't be able to grow at the rate you're growing. I mean, that's an obvious question, right? I mean, because you already answered you can't use the high schools the way you used to. So I guess what I'm trying to figure out is if the sports complex was non-existent,
Correct.
You wouldn't be able to grow exponentially as you are.
Correct. I mean, our home is Paradise Coast as a club. Before Paradise Coast existed, our first team has been around since 2017. We used the high schools for our home games, but we couldn't develop that. We couldn't do that developmental program because we didn't have the fields.
Right.
So, but if Paradise Coast didn't exist, you would have a demand within it would have to exist eventually because the demand for kids are moving in, families are growing, the community is growing, and from the family perspective, so it's a need that you would have.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes, I just had one quick question, and it had to do, it popped into my head with the adjustment in the language. At what stage, if we, because there's still further data and analysis requisite for this borrowing, utilization of these funds for expansion of the park, at what stage can we stop the referenda if for some reason this board chose to, or wasn't happy with the financial analysis for the ongoing operations, O&M, capital replacement? How, at what stage do we have to stop the referenda?
The referendum calls for a 2026 vote.
Yes, sir.
So the supervisor's election is not going to do this for at least a year and a half, put this language together. You can always rescind the ordinance, and that would end it.
Okay, so is there a specific time for, because I think there's something within the SOE's office, we have to have it done and approved by a certain date, like in June or July or
Yes.
of next year?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so it's about a year away from now. Thank you.
Commissioner McDaniel, anything else?
I'm good.
All right. I'm going to make two motions this morning in reference to this. The one is obviously to move forward with the referendum. And as the county attorney said, if the board decides to rescind the ordinance at some point, that's the option of the board. It just takes a simple majority vote. I'm hoping that that this is a unanimous vote this morning, and I'm hoping that the board recognizes that the business community support and the lodging and restaurant association support is really based on a couple things. They want to know what this penny is going to be spent for, and we have an obligation to let them know that. But they also acknowledge that the Paradise Coast Park is a very important component of this. And so I'm hoping that we recognize that. There was one thing that was said by Matthew with Hunden that I think it really kind of hit home with me. He said that this Paradise Coast is the premier soccer complex in the country. Now, we didn't set out to make the premier soccer complex in the country. We set out to make a first-class facility for our kids to have a place to play soccer and other sports, as well as attracting tournaments. And so what we've built, quite frankly, is a gem. And I think that this will be, when we finish this, will be a gem that will serve this community for the next 50 years, long after all of us are gone. And also, just, and I say this every time this issue comes up, this is not just a business where we're just trying to generate revenue and make a ton of money. We will make money on this park in terms of the operations and maintenance. Will we ever get the capital cost back? No. That never was the thought. This is not one of those types of businesses where you have a return on investment and you get your investment back and you make money. It's a regional park, and we don't make any money in terms of capital return on any of our regional parks. Big Corkscrew is a perfect example. That's going to be a $100 million park. There'll be no return on investment on this. And so I'm hoping that the board recognizes that this is a facility that will serve the citizens of this community as a regional park for decades to come, and also will generate revenue for the county in terms of the cost of running this park, but will more importantly generate tourism in terms of the revenue for the park. So my first motion, I am going to make two motions. My first motion is to move forward with the referendum to direct staff to take whatever action is necessary to place this on the ballot for November of 2026, and to hopefully the commission will continue to work with our business organizations to promote this. I know we cannot spend money promoting, but that's the motion, is to move forward with this.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Commissioner McDaniel.
There, just one, and that is just, I'm in support of the motion, just so you know. But as a portion, county manager, as a portion of the analysis, because we've had some discussion about people utilizing our fields, I'd like an aggregate inventory of our fields, all of our fields, park and school system, and the availability of those in this analysis going forward. Please.
Yes, sir.
All right, you have a motion and a second. I see no further discussion. Do we have registered speakers in addition to?
We did not, only the gentleman that spoke, sir.
All right. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, that passed unanimously. Second motion, related but on a slightly different subject. Many, many months ago, we discussed the completion of field number 9. And I believe the board was unanimous in going forward with that. There may have been a negative vote, but I don't recall there being a negative vote on that particular issue. I know Commissioner Hall had some questions about it, but we have basically have the funds set aside. That's been planned from the very beginning. Staff is looking for some final decision on that. I believe they had that decision, but I'm going to make a motion to move forward with the completion of Field 9. If the board needs some information on what that involves, then we have the staff here to go through with that. But that would be my motion. Commissioner McDaniel.
Mine had to do with money, and I just want to make sure that we have the adequate funding appropriated to take care of that, that Field 11.
Yes, sir. There is sufficient funds, principally TDC funds, through the collection of the fraction of a penny for the sports complex.
Okay. Commissioner Hall.
I just want to clarify, was that the field and the parking lot and the pavilion?
Yes, the facilities that are necessary for the field.
I'm good.
All right, so we have a motion. I believe there was a second.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Finn, go build that field as quickly as you can. All right.
Need some help?
Not you personally, Ed. Okay, you're good at a few things, but you know.
I was going to help.
I got a big truck.
All right. We do have one more report from Hunden.
Yes, sir. That brings us to item 11C. This is a recommendation to accept the tourism impact study for the Sun and Fun Lagoon. Again, Mr. Jay Tusa is here to begin the presentation.
All right, thank you, Commissioners. Mr. Chairman, tourism's final agenda item for the day. So we have 11C, the Sun and Fun Lagoon study. So this has been ongoing for a while. It was presented to the TDC at their June meeting and approved by them, acceptance of the report. And so Matthew is going to come back up with Hunden and present the findings of that study for you.
Commissioners, thank you for the time again. We can go to the first slide. So to chat a little bit about why we were engaged in the items that we discussed and analyzed throughout this study process was really looking at the facility and the improvements that were made and things that could be done in the future to best suit the facility, as well as ongoing use and potential utilization of TDC funds for future improvements. Next slide. So a main goal of our analysis was to understand where people are coming from when visiting the Sun and Fun Park, to understand if this is accommodating tourism and drawing folks that are coming from outside of the county to the Sun and Fun Park. We utilize Placer.ai, which collects cell phone geofencing data to understand where folks go or come from when they're visiting the park. We pulled data back to 2017, and you'll see a few snapshots from 2019 and 2023, which shows that in an annual year in 2023, the facility accommodated 86,000 total visits, and approximately 64,700 came from within 25 miles, and you'll see those visitors from beyond 25 miles and over 100 miles. We can go to the next slide. The next slide here shows a little bit more detail on visitors that are non-Collier County visitors. And from our assessment going back to 2017, approximately 46% came from outside of Collier County. So that shows that nearly half of all visits to Sun and Fun came from outside of Collier County. 23% of the total visits came from Lee County, which from our perspective shows a significant pull of dollars from the surrounding area as well as across the entire state to Sun and Fun. This does not mean that Sun and Fun is their sole reason for visiting Collier County, but is an asset, but also an amenity that improves their overall stay within the county. Next slide. So throughout this assessment, we conducted a close look at the operational performance of the facility and conducted two scenarios. One is the baseline scenario, looking at the current facility and looking into the future on how it might perform. And then scenario two is under the assumption that there's a third-party management group that integrates with existing county staff. There are new cabana rentals, which we feel is a significant opportunity at the park today that can drive more revenue into the facility, as well as accommodate those visitors and locals that want shade structures, so that it can be a revenue stream and also improve the quality of visit for folks that are coming to the park. And then one key finding that we found throughout our analysis is the introduction of new features is a way to improve visitation, keep people coming to the park, as well as draw more tourism. So shown on the next slide here is our summary of impacts to Collier County under those two scenarios. I want to point out the incremental impacts between scenario 1 and 2. Over $16 million in incremental spending with those improvements to the park, introducing the new cabana rentals, which we expect to attract more visitors. Approximately $6.1 million in new earnings, 4 additional full-time jobs within the county, and $500,000 in tax revenue between scenario 1 and 2 with those additional improvements. One point I want to hit on briefly is just under scenario 1, which is the baseline. The park currently, or projected over the next 30 years, will generate $6.7 million in tax revenue. Those are net new to the county, with over $700,000 accommodated or generated within the hotel tax at 5%. Next slide, please. So in terms of our implications, with an incremental $16 million in net new spending compared to the baseline and $500,000 in tax revenues generated, especially looking at the visitation drawn with over 46% coming from outside of the county, our assessment proves and shows that there are substantial visitation from folks coming into the county, elevating their stay because of the park, justifying the allocation of TDC funding to the park. So with that, I'll conclude our presentation and open it up for questions or comments.
Commissioner McDaniel.
Yes, so my understanding is that the 16 million spend is for new assets, the cabanas and so on and so forth, and those monies are coming from the TDT tax.
Correct. Yes, the 16 million is from hotel and sales tax combined.
Okay, and then my next question has to do with the revenue stream. Has there been any analysis done on the current charges that we're doing for I saw a brief slide come through here, but you didn't spend a lot of time on it. But with regard to how much we're charging our current residents in relationship to our visiting residents.
Yes, so in the support materials, and if you go two slides further, other direction, as he gets there, we did look at the rate spectrum between what the facility is currently charging and what the facility could or should be charging. For that second scenario, we did assume a slight elevation in rates. We looked at several other parks such as Sunsplash, which is a very popular park to the north of the county, and looked at what they charge and felt that the facility could charge slightly higher. So under scenario 2, we did assume a slightly higher rate for residents, but also for non-Collier County residents, with a higher increase for non-Collier County residents from our assessment. And in the support materials is what those rates were.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hall, do you have anything else? No. A motion from you to...
I'll move to approve the report.
Do we have any registered speakers?
We do not.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Commissioners, that brings us to our 11 o'clock time certain, item 11D. This is a recommendation to proceed with land acquisition on Bay and Danford Street to address future boat parking needs and local community challenges. Mr. John Dunnick, your Executive Director of Facilities and Redevelopment, is coming up to present.
Good morning again. Before I get started in the presentation, I find it kind of interesting, how everything always ties together in some form or fashion. If you go on to the next slide, in 2003, we adopted a board, beach access and boat launch master plan. In that actual 2003 plan, Sun and Fun was contemplated as being an alternative to beach access during the discussion. So as it all kinds of comes together in the TDC discussion, funding and everything else, I just kind of wanted to point out that the items you just heard before actually tie back into this 2003 plan.
What that really proves is that we go in continuous circles. Everything goes back to something.
Well, and admittedly, I'm one of those people in the circle. I presented this 2003 plan to the county commission back in the day, and I also presented the 1998 plan, which was a predecessor to this 2003 plan.
Did you have bell bottoms on?
I was a little bit younger and a little bit less gray, I can tell you that. As part of the 2003 plan, one of the alternatives for boat access that we talked about to increase was actually to look at purchasing Danford Street and Bay Street and acquire the parcels around Bayview Park for future boat launch access. We recognize that finding actually waterfront and building a boat launch itself was going to be a challenge in the county. And so as part of that plan was to look at actually acquiring the parcels in here. It was right as the CRA was starting. This neighborhood admittedly was a little on the rough side, and we presented that to the county commission, and on a 5-0 vote, they agreed to move forward. The county then started accumulating in a willing seller program aspect. There was nothing eminent domain. I don't want to ever put those words out there, but started acquiring parcels. And you'll see on the map on the right-hand side, we acquired actually 12 parcels early on between 2003 and 2007. Well, as concurrency started occurring, because an element of the AUIR and for regional boat parks, or regional parks, an element actually is boat launch parking. It's a sub-element that's kind of buried in there, but it is actually an element for consideration. And so as they were contemplating the impact fee studies in future years and everything along those lines, they recognized we were going to have a deficit in the AUIR as far as boat launch parking spaces as the community continued to grow. And so in 2007, the staff brought together a plan that said, we've got these 12 parcels, let's look at rezoning them to park now and ask the county commissioner to then create parking spaces to be access to Bayview Park. Well, the county commission kind of looked at it and said it's kind of a haphazard plan when you kind of look at the mapping and you're breaking up parking spaces to residential to parking spaces. And the county commission basically said in a unanimous vote, this is not a good idea. Following that vote, it kind of went dead. The whole project kind of stopped. And literally has been stopped for about 18 years in terms of looking at future land acquisition. I think there was one time a letter of interest sent out in between to see if the residents were interested, and most of the residents said no. And if you go on to the next slide, this is just kind of an AUI presentation that shows in today's numbers that, basically we're at a deficit of about 22 spaces right now. As the future grows, if you look out 10 years from now, we're looking at a deficit of 40 spaces in terms of county-wide. And so that kind of answers the question of, is there a need? If you can go into the next slide. So then as we're, putting on my CRA hat in the past year, I look at, where we deal with the community at whole. And what changed from back then in 2007 to today is a lot of the situations with the storm surge events that have occurred in the past 5 years. With Ian, with Helene, with Milton in the last several years, this community has, have gone through extensive flooding. Many people have had to replace their units 3 times over. And so in talking to the community, there is a combination of fatigue and more of a willing seller look at things and recognizing that certain storm surge events we're not going to be able to prevent. We will not be able to put enough infrastructure in this high hazard area to actually make a really big difference. There's programs like Elevate Florida that could elevate a certain house, but you're still going to have to deal with the infrastructure, the roads, and everything else. Specific to Danford Street, as the CRA, since I've been in the CRA since May of last year, the issues that we've experienced with the community have to do a lot with just the kind of the changing of times, which is you have certain areas and houses that are 3 feet above flood level, and then you have houses that are actually built to code today. So you have a mixture of uses and FEMA elevations in the area. Specifically on Danford Street, one of the complaints though is the boat traffic that's occurring coming through there on a daily basis. And with the expansion of the Hamilton Avenue several years ago that added 34 more spaces, it's just 34 more spaces that are impacting them on a regular basis. And so we've dealt with the complaints of speeding and park hours and commercial traffic coming through, because there's been a variety in Danford Park or Bayview Park where we've actually had people being dropped off to take into Keewaydin Island for construction works. We actually found 2x4s being loaded onto a pontoon boat. Then you have your basic jet skiers using the park, and then you have a lot of commercial light traffic in terms of just the fishing guide picking up people in terms of that. But you have a lot of activity constantly going through the park. And so from a community standpoint, there's a lot of frustration with how we manage the day-to-day operations of the park. And so after dealing, and handling probably about 7 of the 9 CRA meetings I've had in the past year, the community issues over and over again, I started thinking, well, maybe there's an alternative plan. And so if you go on to the next slide. I'll go on to the next slide. We thought about, what does a plan look like that could possibly work with what we have? And so the idea is to think about rerouting the entrance of the park from Danford Street to Bay Street and move it around and acquire all the parcels on Bay Street. And I'll show you the land acquisition map again of what we own. And look at you can then expand all of the parking along Bay Street because you're against Hamilton Harbor, so you don't have another neighbor on the other side of the street on Bay Street. And you could create potentially 60 to 80 trailer spaces and 40 to 50 vehicular spaces. And additionally, what it does too is inside Bayview Park, it allows us to probably restore some of the green space in the park, because one of the options that occurred after 2007 was they added parking spaces right along the waterfront. So they basically turned that park almost wholly and consistently into boat launch parking. And there's very little green space. And I'd argue that Bayview Park is probably one of the most beautiful parks in the county because you look right over Gordon Pass. And so a lot of people like to just go enjoy the park. So we came up with this concept, and Shirley and I started talking about it in the CRA and said, well, maybe it's something we bring forward. Well, then fast forward a week later, I started noticing new development occurring right on Danford Street and Bay Street. And so on Danford Street, we had a permit pulled for a 3-story building, and Bay Street we had Philbring brought in. And so I asked, I went to the developers and I asked for a meeting, and I went to both of them and said, hey, would you be willing to look at, potentially selling? And they said yes. So we looked at the property map, and you kind of look in blue. We have Collier County is what we own today. Green is what the developers all own, and red is the remaining. And so we, excuse me, we went and then started talking to everybody and said, hey, we met with each one individually and said, would you be willing to look at a purchase? And they all said yes, but for one person. And excuse me, can I get some water?
Drink out of this.
I don't know if we have any handy. So we started looking with the majority of the community, and everybody said they'd be willing to talk to us, and they'd actually be willing to look at participating in this program, but for the person at the 1700 location outside the entrance of the park. And so as we worked through that discussion, and he's presented some alternatives of, like, he likes the concept of the project. He just doesn't like the idea of bifurcating, the roadway onto his side of the road. But we have talked with him, and I provided you the letter that he said he provided as part of this project and went forward. Thank you. And so, we basically have a willingness of the community to participate in this project. But for one person, as I said. And, it's a long haul, because when I get into it, this is just the beginning when you start looking at properties. What I'd like to do is get the board authorization to look at the idea of taking surpluses, because we actually own property that we wouldn't need under this plan. They could possibly be surpluses or land swaps that we could utilize. The CRA has talked about potentially, as the advisory board has talked about, putting up those property as a potential swap if the commercial developer wanted it, in a discussion that we had last month. And then there's grants opportunity with CDBG funds. There's park impact fees that we could look at. The kind of the funding strategy would be to use general fund as last resort. We do have $3 million set aside in strategic initiatives. But the idea is kind of work that plan forward and to look at the viability of this. And, it's going to be one of these where I've told them they're not going to get rich. This is a county project, and we have a process of appraisals we'll work through. But we think in collaboration, we think if we can get everybody together, this could be a tremendous home run.
And what you're looking for today is a motion from the board to move forward with the evaluation of this, continuing to evaluate.
That's correct.
Do we have any registered speakers?
Yes, we do, sir. We have 8.
Okay, do you want to hear the registered speakers before we?
I had a question.
Commissioner McDaniel.
In my question is, how flexible is your plan? One of the deficiencies that we have is we're a public entity, and we're announcing that we're about to go buy a bunch of property in an area, and though there are willing sellers, there sometimes is a tendency for larceny that comes along. How flexible is your plan with regard to adaptability? Because you're showing the re-access road here. We already know there's a neighbor that's not so smurfy about your plan, and that and so how flexible? How are you flexible enough to be able to adapt once you accumulate or don't?
Absolutely. If I went back, let's see if I can go back here.
I'll get you, John.
There we go. If I went back and looked at this, plan, we've talked with people near the end of the street and whether they want to swap a house at the top of the street. We've actually had those individual discussions to some level with the owners, and so I do believe there's a lot of flexibility in how we work out a plan, how the road access works, things along those lines. I just think that, and as I said, when you look at what we own on Danford Street, those blue properties could be surplused if we acquired the properties closer with the road access, or vice versa. So there is a lot of flexibility in how we proceed.
Commissioner Colwell.
Thank you, Chairman. This is in my district, and I know the CRA and you guys had a lot of conversation about this project and the future plans. I know what it's like. I see on a regular basis the parking situation down there. If we didn't have, I know before we had the 35 extra spots going up Hamilton Avenue there, or whatever it's called now, but going up to Thomason, it was a bear because people were trying to shove vehicles everywhere and anywhere with boat trailers. We actually had to put these like bollards on the road to keep them from parking up against these properties. And I know for a fact that that park is it's a gem. It is. The views from that park is amazing. But the sad part is 75% of the park is a parking lot and not a park. And it probably was never concept and designed to be that way. And, this might be a fix to bring that back to standard or back to what it should have been or what it's designed to be. So I like the concept, the vision, but I like the fact that the funding sources are not going to be, we're going to try to avoid as much as possible, general fund being part of this project between the CRA and the other funding sources you talked about. So I support it, being in my district, to at least get it moving in the right direction for now. So that's kind of where I stand on it.
Commissioner Castro.
Thank you, sir. I meant to ask you this when we met, but looking here, all the red squares, which ones actually have structures on them? Are some of the reds just empty lots owned by folks? I mean, we already know 1700 has a house on it. Obviously,
Yep.
we got the letter here. But which are the other ones? Do most of them have structures?
The majority of the red ones
do.
all have structures on them.
They do. Okay. I mean, well, 1700 is I appreciate the letter, very well written and to the point, but it's in a strategic spot furthest away from where the plan could be. So it seems like we might be able to appease everybody and do something smart here. But okay. So but most of the red have structures on them. Okay. But most of those people were interested in selling and moving, or
willing to talk and to sit with us. As
Okay.
I said, there's a lot of fatigue from what's happened in the past several years. The one that I call the hole in the donut, which is in between all the blue that we own at the top of the street. That's Nan Gerhardt. Nan used to work for us at the county. Yes. Her husband passed away unexpectedly last year, and so she's been willing. She's been an advocate since I drove this plan up in 2003, and so a lot of the homeowners we've talked to have all said yes, we're willing to work with you. There's one parcel we have not talked to, which is 1701, and that's out of courtesy. They had a personal issue last week, and we have we've been giving them their space appropriately.
Okay, we have 8 registered speakers. Is that what you said?
Yes, sir. We will begin with Kathy Shaw, and she'll be followed by Melina Branoff.
Good morning. Thank you so much for I'm sorry. Good morning. Thank you so much, commissioners and chairman, John, and all the for considering this morning. I just come to you because I am a resident on Danford Street, and I'm very happy to listen to some positive movement for this project. I'm a lifelong resident of Collier County. I've lived on Danford Street for 30 plus years. And over the last 15 years, I understand we have new zoning laws and all these things about building up around us, but the influx of water that's coming in, not just from storm, but the runoff from rainwater and all that, the high tides, because our road has been deteriorating for the usage of commercial. We have great big trucks that come down our street carrying riprap, and because Bayview Park is a launching pad. We've been approached to do even the bringing in from the Naples Pier. That's how easy this has been access for these commercial boats. So I guess my reason for coming to you is to just emphasize that if we get approved for this and we do really back this plan, John's come up with a great idea, is that this would be a long-term sustainable solution for us and not just something short-term that is Band-Aided. Because over the past few years, our street has been repaired, but it's been Band-Aided. And our street has sunk. So from all of these heavy boats, these bigger boats, because when the park was expanded and the boat ramp was expanded from just a single ramp to 2 boats going in, these bigger boats are coming down our street, as some of you may know, and that has caused a problem for us. And the other thing that I'm interested in finding out is that we have a big pipe at the end of our road that is, I live on the north side of Danford, and there's a big pipe down at the end of Danford Street by the park that is on a tilt, and the water comes in from the bay there, and it runs. I'm sorry.
You have another 30 seconds. Go ahead.
And it runs down our way, and so even on just a tide, it's not storm, it's not anything, it's just on a tide, our streets are being flooded. And I'm not as techie as some of these people have been, but you can just see the stuff that we're going through here. And that this water runs up into, I have a stilt home, but some of the smaller houses, and these are generational homes, it runs down there into their homes. So thank you.
Your next speaker is Melina Branoff, and she'll be followed by Mark Stillman. Am I saying that even close to right?
My name is Milena Brankov. I am also a resident of Danford Street, and I'd like to thank Commissioner Koval as well as the Bayshore CRA team who are here for bringing this topic to your attention. I just want to mention that this has been going for years. The Bayview Park, Bay Street, and Danford Street has been experiencing issues, and we got flooded every high tide. And now we're in high tide season, rain season. Sometimes it's 2 times a day the street is flooded. You heard we have heavy trucks with boats, people walking back and forth, no sidewalks, a lot of hazards and safety issues here. So in the park also we've observed and we've reported many times some unauthorized out of ordinance activities. We requested many times, this is taken care of. So our request is really for long-term sustainable solutions. We heard the other 2 speakers too. And to stop the flooding. And we also, since have been so many years going on, there were solutions taken, presented to us, but not taken any actions. We also engaged a non-government organization to observe the development of this project. It's called what was we presented the name of the organization Responsible Government of Naples. It's also observing how this is developed, and we're looking forward to really having this resolved in the future. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Mark Stillman, and he will be followed by Jim Calvin.
Good morning. My name is Mark Stillman. I'm the person at 1700 Danford Street. I think the word was not so Smurfy. But I want to go on record. I have a long history, and you folks have seen my letter. It dates back to I own the house of basically the first developer of Danford Street. He built it. I knew him well. My father knew him well. They were both skilled craftsmen and boaters, and they made their home right at the end of the street, closest to the boat ramp. I admire some of the speakers here today. John has done an excellent speaker. I've taken a lot of his time over the past few days, but I still have this need to be part of this neighborhood. And I'll say this, Bayview is a wonderful neighborhood. It's a highly desirable location with a great history. I know that you've mentioned some of the things weren't so nice down there, but when you drive up and down that street, it's beautiful. You see a lot of great looking places. We just finished painting the outdoor and everything with ours. I've renovated it. I've been renovating it for 10 years now. But unfortunately, the plan that you're describing totally eliminates or isolates many of us, or at least me, the long-term residents of what we love most. It further kind of destroys much of its historic quaintness of the area, and also an original Florida-style architecture that's unique to just that area. We were only personally informed about this plan a little over a week ago. We are just beginning to understand how it affects us, or me personally, or my wife and I personally. And I believe that those who are the most effective need more documented details and options than we've been presented. From our perspective, we believe there needs to be more discussion and communication. And then we ask for flexibility and creativity and to work together to find solutions that, one, keep the owners like us in the neighborhood that we love, allow us to keep and enjoy a lifestyle that we have built and cherish, and three, to keep this quaint boating community as a whole. Thank you. Any questions?
Your next speaker is Jim Calvin. He'll be followed by Maurice Gutierrez.
Good morning. My name is Jim Calvin. I am a founder, charter member of the Marine Industries Association of Collier County, currently a director emeritus. I hold a 100-ton U.S. Coast Guard license, a Florida Guide license, and a marine contractor's license. So I'm very familiar with all the water access ports in Collier County. And on behalf of the Marine Industries Association, we want to say thank you to the county for pursuing this. We completely understand and feel for the residents in the affected area. Nobody likes a bully, but there are realities, the fact that we've got a growing community simply because we have waterfront here in Collier County. As the community's grown, with the exception, I believe, of Goodland Boat Park, I don't know that we've enhanced a couple of places, but there have been no new facilities built in years and years and years. Pursuant to the comment about the trucks full of riprap and concrete and the pier demolition going down Danford Street, that's absolutely correct and unfortunate. Right now there are 2 commercial loading places that can legally be used in Collier County. That's one of them at Hamilton Harbor across from Bayview Park. The other one is Naples Landing in downtown Naples. And Just as an aside, maybe to throw in here, while this discussion's going on, there are other county-owned properties that we could consider for heavy commercial use that would get this stuff out of the residential neighborhoods. Back to the project at hand, we certainly see the need, and the marine industries would be standing by to help in any way possibly that we can, whether it's consultation, whether it's ground proofing, whether it's historical perspective. We're at your disposal, and that's pretty much it. I want to thank again staff. We've been watching this for 20 years to see what, if, and when it may happen, so hopefully we can see it sometime soon. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Maurice Gutierrez, and he'll be followed by Nick Pearson.
Morning, Commissioners. Maurice Gutierrez for the record. They say timing is everything, and it's kind of obvious here because this project has been thought of, but has never really come to fruition because of neighborhood issues and property owners not willing to engage. We need to see the effort that our director, Mr. Dunnick, has done in conjunction with the property owners to take the opportunity not to see the cost of the project, but the value. Because the reality is, by separating access from the residential area, it will designate the roadway with no residential owners being impacted, create a dead end for the folks on Danford, which increases property value and privacy, and allow what the CRA and the MSTU has done over the years in improving Thomason, improving Hamilton, and then, of course, the access into this. Parks and Rec has presented this in the past to our CRA advisory boards, but we've never had the opportunity to gather the property owners collectively to come up with a solution, not a remedy. The solution being eliminating the potential impact of boats going down narrow residential streets, which is what Danford is, and allowing an access that may in the future be actually able to create a roundabout at the entrance, put a gate, and have park hours acknowledged and lawfully followed, which I know a lot of the residences have come to our meetings to complain about. So I hope that this opportunity can be an eye-opener to see what we can achieve and not just look at the cost. I think a factor that the CRA timeline will still be viable while this project, if proceed, will be able to possibly financially support, as well as the MSTU. And I think the timing is right for the community to get a facility that doesn't impact a residential neighborhood as it is today. Thank you.
Your next speaker is Nick Pearson. He will be followed on Zoom by Cynthia Tutino.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name's Nick Pearson. I'm a lifelong resident of Collier County. I'm also an environmental consultant here. I work with guys like Jim Calvin all the time and many other marine contractors in the area. I just want to echo everything that he said here. I think what we have here is a really rare opportunity at a home run, like John said. And I just feel that I would urge you to keep moving this down the road. It would be a shame to have this kind of sit idle again, especially after what happened the first time around. 20 years passed between then and now. And I sort of fear that if we don't take advantage of this opportunity now, then we may not be able to again. It's definitely not going to be any easier in the future to continue to acquire parcels in this area. And that's really all I wanted to say. I think many of my other comments probably would just be a repetition, so I'll leave it at that.
Our final speaker on this item joins us on Zoom, Cynthia Tutino. Cynthia, you're being prompted to unmute yourself if you'll do so at this time. And there you are. You have 3 minutes, Cynthia.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Tutino, and I live at 1715 Danford. I'm right across the street from Mark Stillman. And I agree with Mark that, our properties are very unique in where they sit. The views looking towards the park are spectacular. I sit there for hours and look out my windows. But I also understand that the park needs to move forward along with the county and the city. This is a gem, and it's absolutely necessary, I believe, to expand the park. But I've heard over and over from several people, including Maurice, that how wonderful this area is, how beautiful it is. It is a gem, but also that once Danford Street is closed off, the property values of Danford Street will increase. I want you to keep in mind also, what would the future property values be of the people that are willing to sell their properties? Because as Mark said, where can we go that would offer us this kind of view, this kind of property that we can enjoy? So I am willing to work with everyone, but I think that we need to sit down and discuss what the property owners would actually like out of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, with your indulgence, I had one more gentleman who didn't realize he needed to do a slip. With your indulgence, Mr. Sawyer, Kent Sawyer.
Thank you all very much. My name's Kent Sawyer. I have Sawyer's Outboard on Bayshore. I was president of Marine Industries 25 years ago when we were working on this, trying to buy property there, and when we were all talking about it. I definitely feel for the people there. I don't know if it's possible, and I'm not the person, maybe Nick, but the 17, the property, the mangroves that are next to it, that is, I don't know if anything can be done. That's all pumped in land from Port Royal. I don't know if we can put an entrance in through that and then come down the backside. That just makes sense to me to do something there because it truly wasn't original in the first place. So why can't we cut through the mangroves and make an entry there and leave him alone? I understand that, several people here are willing to talk about selling, and I think that's awesome. I wish we would have done this 25 years ago. The other thing is Jim Calvin made a comment of other properties that is accessible for commercial load and unload. I really think we should need to look at that. So I'm really very thankful for you all. Have a great one.
All right, Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I would like to make a motion. Go ahead and, I guess, start the process is basically what we're being asked today, to start the process of moving us forward.
I'll second it.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Commissioner LoCastro.
I just wanted to make a comment. I think it bears worth saying how impressed I think we all are with the citizens who have come forward. I mean, Mr. Stillman writes a letter that is just so professionally written. There's a lot of emotion, a lot of passion in here, and at times we get citizens that are facing a similar thing and come here screaming and yelling at us that we're trying to destroy their town, turn it into Miami, all this. I'll just speak for myself. I salute you as a military member, to the people that came to the podium, to some of the emails that we got, and to the people that were on Zoom. It's very refreshing to have citizens say, I'm willing to work with the county, because at times we don't always experience, that kind of, mutual cooperation, from citizens. And I can tell you, nobody sitting up here is trying to force feed something into that. And I have every confidence that Commissioner Colwell will lead a great discussion with all the folks, and we're going to take some baby steps here. But my whole point was just how impressed I was with everybody that came up here and didn't yell and scream at us and say, "What are you doing?" This and that. And we need more of that civility and cooperation. Not only in our county but maybe in our country to get things done the right way. And I thank you for that. It was noticed and appreciated.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that passed unanimously. We have a time certain at 1 o'clock. Why don't we take a lunch recess until 1 p.m.?
Here we are.